Well, I'm recording anyway.
What really do I need to do?
You haven't got to do anything.
That's
you just
right.
Talk.
That's why I'm.
Y siéntate por ahí.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I realized that we were sitting too close to each other, so we kept picking up each other's feedback. So if we sit further apart, it's going to be a lot easier.
A lot better.
Yeah, a lot better.
Cool.
Well, hey, Scott. Hey, Mom.
Hey, how are you?
So, Mom, you're visiting us from New York. Please tell me, you've been a registered Republican your whole life. Is that true?
No.
For those that couldn't see the facial expression, it was priceless.
It's like
Yeah.
you should have had that camera.
Well,
on.
tell me how long you've been a registered Democrat and why you're a Democrat. On the spot.
Oof,
Introduce
I
you.
have been registered ever since I was able to register in the United States. I've been a Democrat, and that's because I believe in the underlying values of the Democratic Party. Do I agree with everything? No, but I believe under their fundamental values,
Like what? What's a fundamental value of the Democratic Party?
like
that you-
justice, equity, for all.
I would wager that Republicans probably would say justice too, but it's probably enacted in very different ways.
Well, it's just, I guess, how they
I would say the same.
interpret it.
And also, I think that Republicans would point out some discrepancies with the Democratic Party.
Well, it's going to go both ways.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, pro-life, pro-choice is a good one to contest between the two parties.
That is such a...
But why? I mean, it's like, I'm totally pro-life. I believe in life. You know what? If you're pro-life, you need to think that all humans, humans, Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
You should be saying that because that is pro-life.
But one of the Democrats' fundamental principles is pro-choice.
That is not necessarily the case. I mean, no Democrat is going around and saying, let's go have abortion. That's not the case. This is for me. For me, nobody
What?
really wants that.
You've never been to an abortion party?
Well, look, no, I haven't. So this is the thing. If okay, great. You don't want abortion. That's fantastic. I don't want people to have abortion. But guess what? You need to do two things. The first thing is, if you are going to tell someone, no, you can't have an abortion, then in that case, why don't you provide them with the wherewithal so that they can have the ability to not conceive? For example, like contraceptives. Why are we making it so hard for people to actually get just contraceptives, for example?
Well, Mom.
So you make that choice. What's the second choice, though?
The second choice?
second thing that they need to do, one, provide contraceptives and not make it so hard so people can actually obtain them. God, give them for free. Two, if you argue that once you get pregnant, you have to have that child, then make sure that you provide them with
Diapers.
everything to take care of the kid. Because if this person is poor and they don't have money, they can't send them to daycare. Even if they're not poor, my God, it's so expensive. Daycare is crazy.
$1,000 in California.
Look,
Easy.
exactly.
Some people pay their more in less in rent in San Diego than they do for childcare.
Well, maybe they have more kids than you can count on one hand.
No, one kid. One kid.
Is that what you want, that many kids? No, you don't. Then give contraceptives.
Absolutely not.
But if you are telling me, no, you can't have an abortion, because then, okay, are you going to provide me with the means so I can raise this child give them a good life?
So, Scott, this is my mom.
Yeah.
So we started, hello, how are you? And bam! Now we're talking about
I
abortion.
mean,
But-
I kind of threw that in there, pro-life, pro-choice.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
But
It
I
was
think
a
you're
bait.
getting to something, Mom, and that is that some of these choices that we make in our ideologies, in our policies, have other... you can't just isolate these things
Correct.
into a single vacuum and say, if we just tweak this dial, then that issue is fixed. No, because it has implications elsewhere and effects elsewhere. But for someone who doesn't know who you are, so you have an accent, but what else do you have? You have a PhD, you came to this country 18 years old, and you have a PhD, you work in academia. So we're not talking about somebody who just has a bunch of opinions. You are a well-informed person.
I like to think so.
We shall put that to the test. No, we're not going to do that. So today we're going to talk about some of these propositions that are happening in the local California ballot measure. And the two that we're going to talk about is Prop 21 and Prop 24. And I want to start off with Prop 21, but then I eventually want to talk about the election this year, because this is a big election. Or at least people are seeing it as an existential threat to the United States government. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Big time.
Big time?
I think that this election is by far the biggest blunder that America has had in years. I can't equate it with anything that's in my lifetime.
What about that George Bush, Al Gore? No? I remember we were in Hawaii.
Not even close.
We were in Hawaii when they were announcing the results, you know, November 3rd.
Yeah, we
In
were
what,
crying.
2000? You remember crying? Well, let me just jump into what Proposition 21 is all about. So Proposition 21 is a measure for rent control. So this is a measure for adding rent control, which they made an effort 2 years ago. I don't know if you know this, Scott, but 2 years ago, 2018, they had a measure for rent control, and it did not pass. 60% of California said no. And they've come back with some provisions. They've changed some things up. So let me just read to you what the yes says. The yes says a yes vote supports this ballot initiative to allow local government to enact rent control on housing that was first occupied over 15 years ago, with an exception for landlords who own no more than 2 homes with distinct titles or subdivided interests. Pretty vague, right? What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that even mean? So, if we get into some of the rhetoric, which I have questions on what you think about this rhetoric, but there are some specifics here that get into the details of what that means. They will allow, so let's say you're a renter, Scott, you move into a property.
Well, can I ask real quick
Yeah.
what the definition of rent control actually means? Is that rent control financially? Is that
Yes.
rent control with all other aspects associated with that? Who's living there, how long they're living there, things
No.
like that.
They're not limiting like how many people can be living in a property, although that is something that is a concern for opponents of this measure, and we'll get into those. But essentially it's putting a cap on how much you can charge for rent.
Yeah.
So
Plus-
it's regulating landlords.
Okay.
That's the main priority of the bill, is to regulate landlords.
Yeah, because I think, Scott, when it comes to how many people, that is a zoning issue. So that would be different.
Yeah. So like certain zones, you can't
Yes.
cram a bunch of people in a house. So this allows rent increases in rent-controlled properties. So that means they have to be at least 15 years old.
Okay.
So if you have a brand new construction, you can charge whatever you want until that property reaches 15 years old. So allows rent increases in rent-controlled properties of up to 15% over 3 years as the start of a new tenancy.
What is that? So what does that mean? Up to 3 years and
Yeah. So it seems straightforward, but when I looked at it, I was like, wait, what does that even mean? And then finding some more clarification. What it means is if I moved into a new rental property, over the next 3 years of being in that property, the landlord can increase the rent up to 15%, and that's it for the rest of my term.
so wait, if I'm there for more than 3 years, they can't rent it and increase it anymore.
They can't increase it anymore.
But I have
Okay.
to say that 15% is a lot to increase rent.
15% is a lot to increase rent.
At one
credit
time.
cards at high increases of percentage are 15 to 24%, something like that. So that's a big increase. But
Within 3
so
years.
this is your term. So if you're there, I mean, I've been to few places where I've rented which leases longer than a 1-year contract. I mean, I think I can recall maybe one time, but that was because it was a deal with a job that I had there that all the employees were renting from this division that allowed us to rent for up to 18 months.
Yeah.
So if you're renting for a year, they're going to hike it up to 15% after your contract is up, right? After your lease is up, that's what they can do to you.
Yep.
And then if you're there for another year, they can do another 15%.
No. Over 3 years,
Okay.
Oh, they
Total-
can't raise it anymore.
can't raise it anymore.
But that makes, I don't like that, because think about it, so they could just do it the first year and then But that's 15% at once. That's a lot.
It is.
It is. But is it a lot
So-
over 10 years?
Still, 15% is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
But again asking though, so if it's a 3-year limit up to 3
Now-
years,
now-
so does that refresh after the 3-year
Yeah.
term?
Let me
Exactly.
add some more clarification because last year Gavin Newsom enacted a new law in California that limits 5% plus inflation increase every year. So there's already some rent control in the state of California. So your rent can't go up by more than 5% every year. So this law is essentially saying that you can maximize that up to 15% year over year, but you can't exceed what Gavin Newsom already wrote into law. So they said 5% plus inflation or 10%, whichever is lower. But with this law, this means that if you added 10% the first year, which is the absolute max, assuming that the inflation, doesn't meet up to it, 10% max. So you can't increase it by 15% in 1 year. You can't do that.
Okay.
It's right now 5% plus inflation.
So what's the point of the 15%? I don't get it.
So the 15% is Gavin Newsom saying forever. If you were a tenant for 20 years, you could increase the rent 5% per
Yes.
year. What this saying is by after the third year, you are not able to increase rents
Forever.
forever.
So what if I
Until
stay
they
here
moved
for
out. Until they
Until
moved
you
out.
get a
10
new
years?
tenant.
Well, but what if the market, I mean, obviously there's
San Diego's a
market.
hot, California is a hot market
Yes.
in many different states.
I mean, in some ways, I get it. I get that they try to protect the tenants, but at the same time, if I look at it, I want to see if as a landlord, what's my incentive to actually?
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking too in my head. Like as a landlord, what's your incentive to keep this tenant?
Or to have
So
property.
you could possibly start forcing tenants out
If you can.
if you can.
Yes.
Or another example that I'm thinking long term is you're going to have less people buying to rent. So buying a piece of property in order to rent because you're limited on what you can charge for your property value.
To be fair, that type
So-
of style in California is very rare already to begin with.
Buying to rent?
Buying to rent.
Oh, I don't know.
Or excuse me, renting to buy. I'm sorry.
That's
I
the
got
other
it.
way.
I got it
Yeah.
confused. You're saying
No,
I
I'm saying
bought
a
the
landlord's
property
buying
and
a
then
piece of
rented.
property
Yeah,
to
yeah.
rent it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So if you buy the property when the market is low, let's say you buy something for, I'm going to use an arbitrary, unrealistic number, $100,000 in California. Completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
But if you buy something for $100,000 and you know that the market's doing strong in California as it always does, and the rate of inflation is going up by 3.7? That's a good number.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard in California.
That's the average.
Yeah, it's pretty standard
Some
in California.
neighborhoods are going up much higher.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. This neighborhood's going to boom.
Yes, sir.
So if you're capped at 15% with your tenant and inflation's going up 3.7, you're really going to be above your 15% mark by your fourth year.
Easily
Yeah.
for some markets.
Easily for
If
some
not,
neighborhoods,
Right.
some markets.
some markets shot up 9%.
So
in a
this,
year
so
in San
this is a
Diego?
yes for the 15% cap, which might lead to less conglomerations buying property for rent.
Well, hold on.
But then what are you going to do with the people that keep moving to California and they need housing?
Well, I'm concerned about somebody who lives here in
Or who
California
lives here.
who's trying to buy.
And that they get out.
Myself.
Well, hold on. So there's more to this, and we'll get into some of these implications because this is where we get into the nitty gritty of this
Yeah.
bill and trying to figure out how do we vote for this? Is this a good thing? Is this a
Okay.
bad thing? I'm not even sure. So part of the exemptions to this is that individuals who own no more than 2 homes from new rent control policy. So you can be you can be an individual, and you can have no more than 2 homes. If you're a corporation that owns a home,
Then it applies.
then it applies.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't apply
To-
to you
if it's
who's
in your
going to
name.
buy one.
Okay.
Rent.
But
Okay.
at the same time, if you are a landlord with 2 properties, you're taking a lot of risk having those properties in your name. So as a, protecting your asset strategy, that's a bad move. You don't want to have your assets in your name because if you get into a car accident,
Yeah.
some sort of weird thing happens and someone's suing you and they go after your assets, it's in your name, so you might have to put a lien on the house, whatever. It could happen. So I'm just throwing that out there. That
So basically, though, then if you
Yeah.
want to buy more than two, let's say you have money, and that's how you're going to have your passive income
yeah.
that you're going to retire from. That's the money you're going to have. Then I don't want to do it, because if I do that, then I am going to be under this new law.
Yes. So you're incentivized to have two houses.
Only two,
Only
but
two.
no more. You can't really grow your investment, because if you do,
In real estate.
then you are in real estate. Yeah, then you are going to be confronted with this law
Bingo.
that this is all I can do. Which then, I mean, again, as a tenant, I'm like, oh yay!
Yeah, as a tenant.
But how do you balance those two? I don't know.
Okay. So then the other provision, this is the last one. It says, in accordance with California law, prohibits rent control from violating landlord's right to fair financial return. So that's a term. So I was like, okay, so what's a fair rate of return? How do they define it in the
Yeah.
bill? So the bill is actually, which I like, very simple. They simplified it into a few pages. It says that a fair rate of return means that you must be allowed to increase rents enough to receive some profit each year.
So how are you gonna do it with this?
Well, you have to be allowed to make some profit.
Yes, but if you can only increase 15%, that's it, and this tenant stays there like for 5 years, then how, if it keeps going up, how am I gonna get a return?
Mom, $2 is some profit, so you have a fair rate.
I'm also concerned about property updates.
Yes.
That costs money. How?
Yeah.
I mean, what percentage of? That's a lot of money. You want to
Property
do a kitchen
updates, property improvements.
improvements? That's right.
So let's say you're not continuing the lease of a tenant. From what I recall, it's like you have to demonstrate that you're making updates to the property. Otherwise, you're kind
You
of like
can't
unfairly
increase it.
just taking people out and then increasing it. Because right now, let's say the tenant leaves, you can increase the rent to anything you want. So that's current. So let's say you've had that tenant every year, you've increased it 5%, and 7 years later he leaves. Well, now you can jack up the rent to whatever you want. There's no cap. This also puts a cap on 15%. So you cannot increase the rent by 15%
Yeah.
after a tenant leaves. So let's say you had a tenant for 10 years, you're way behind market, more than 15% behind market,
Yeah.
you have a 15% cap that you can now raise your
yeah.
apartments, your condos in, and then you have to recycle, rinse and repeat.
No
the
matter how
cycle.
much it costs you also to do the upgrade. That's not good. Because why if
So-
it costs me
Yeah.
more than that 15% to upgrade, then what do I make?
Yeah, and
Exactly.
you don't even have a
Nothing.
property in California, but you're thinking about, because really this is going to affect anybody who's looking to generate wealth within California.
Yeah. It sounds like there's not going to be a way unless you are really, really, really rich.
Now, I
Yeah.
have some of the language that they use. By the way, some people that support this are Vermont U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, which I'm not sure why.
How is he involved in this? He's not in California.
I think it just furthers the
It's just an
Agenda.
endorsement.
An
Just an
endorsement, yeah.
endorsement to get
To
people
this.
on board. It's like
The-
celebrity approval.
Maxine Waters, who's a
Lovely.
yes, she's a Democrat here and incumbent too, hard. Like she wins her elections by
well,
landslides.
that's because that's the name that people know.
Democrat, no Democratic challengers as well, so it's
Oh,
all
wow,
Republican
yeah.
challengers. She's just decimating them. And the California Democratic Party is also for it.
Who's against it? Like has come out.
The governor of our state.
Uh-huh.
So Governor Gavin Newsom is against it, and the reason why he said is because they just enacted some rent control, which is the
Yeah.
5% per year. And he's saying, like, don't continue to add more stuff to homeowners. If you're going
Yeah.
to do rent control, do a slow approach. Not every single year you're
Yeah.
complying with new laws.
Yeah, besides, this doesn't really deal with the problem of the lack of housing affordability.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that
It doesn't
at all.
solve the problem.
It doesn't sound like it addresses homelessness. It doesn't sound like it addresses my pocketbook much.
Exactly. So what, my question to you, what is this addressing? That's my
So,
question.
so great point on the homelessness. So I have this official argument here. And in the official argument, they talk about some of these issues. So I want to read this to you verbatim. And then I want to get into this throughout this conversation, but it's how I have been able to take the merits of the actual bill, like what the provisions actually are that are changing law, and I'm able to isolate that from the rhetoric that is being said. Because if you go to Prop 22, the app-based drivers are saying, save save jobs, and you're like, no one's threatened. Are you saying that these jobs are under threat? And
Yeah.
that's the implication, but really is they just don't want to have to deal with changing the structure of their business in order to keep people working for Lyft and Uber. So the language, the rhetoric is sometimes not in direct support of the provisions. It's trying to grab you emotionally.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
It's not grabbing you with detail and information. It's not informing you. So this is what the rhetoric is for this bill in terms of the official arguments. It says, this is in all caps, vote yes on Prop 21. Keep families in their homes, preserve affordable housing, stop homelessness, and save taxpayers money. Caps, okay? So now we
Those
get
are all things I can stand behind.
right.
Right, me too.
So here is where they get into the homelessness, and I'll skip some of this. Right here it says, and skyrocketing rents. Actually, let me back up because this is kind of funny how they do this stuff. They go, small businesses are squeezed as renters spend less in their communities and workers face longer commutes. You're like, yeah, that's right. Smaller businesses are squeezed.
What? How are small business squeezed?
That's not the idea. Is to grab you with these like
Yeah, but
small business squeeze. That's rhetoric right there.
But
that
how
grabs
is that
you.
related to this thing? I'm trying to figure
Puppies dying,
Puppies are dying.
kittens being murdered.
Children are being abused, and housing is too high. And you're like,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, everything is true. Yes.
Okay. Living paycheck to paycheck makes it difficult for teachers, grocery clerks, and nurses to afford housing
Okay,
in communities
excuse
they
me.
serve. Hold on, while still having enough money for basics like groceries, gas, and childcare. And skyrocketing rents have led to over 150,000 homeless people living on the streets. So do you see that casual connection of how 150,000
Yeah.
people are homeless because of housing? So that's, hold that thought right there. The crisis is only getting worse. The coronavirus pandemic has, so now they're grabbing you with COVID,
My goodness.
left millions of workers unemployed and at risk of losing their homes because having rent control is going to protect you from not having a job.
Yeah.
According to the UCLA study, we are facing a surge in homelessness,
Which I believe.
which we, of
Yeah.
course, by tackling one of the root causes of the crisis, Prop 21 has a single mission: saves taxpayers money.
Okay, how?
Here's how. The way they do that is a study in 2017 found that just a 5% increase in rent pushes 2,000 Los Angeles residents into homelessness. That's where I want to stop right now.
Why don't they then pay them a living wage so that people can afford houses? I mean, you can't.
I think, yeah, but I also think you shouldn't be living so close to outside of your means.
$2,000.
Except
5%.
5%.
5%.
Yeah, but except that you need to think, let's say if you work there, right? So you get closer to work, right? So less commute,
Yeah.
less pollution. That's where you are. You were living there, but now the rent has gotten so high because you get all this new influx of new money. Then you get pushed out to another neighborhood. You can afford it. And the problem, your salaries and wages are staying the same, like low.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're going to have
But
you
right,
know,
a 5%
rate of
increase.
inflation right now for this year is still not a negative. It's a positive. And we have hiring or raise freezes right now.
You see,
Rampant raise
that?
freezes.
So,
Yeah.
But they're tackling one little thing. I mean, I'm not saying obviously housing insecurity is very important, but look at the overall picture. This is a systemic issue.
Yes.
This is not just, because I'm going to make them not increase the rent. It's like, come on, these people can't even afford it right now.
Right.
They can't afford
Yeah.
it right
So-
now. That's why they're homeless already.
So let me,
Yeah.
let's
They're
back,
living too close to outside their means.
So let me back out. So here we have one of the first major claims. This is one of their first leading claims is,
5% increase is going to push
5%,
2,000 people.
2,000 people. So 2,000 people, that's heart-wrenching. 2,000 people are
Yes,
forced
yes.
out into the street.
Older.
Now let's
Yep.
put that into
adults.
perspective.
How many people live in LA?
How many people live in LA? How many do you think, Mom?
Oh, yeah. So this is probably a fraction, but still.
It's a fraction of a fraction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, LA is predicted to have about 4 million people in the city.
That's the city. That's
In
not
the
great.
city?
That's the city.
So the county is around 10.7 million. So if we were to take, let's assume that they're talking about LA, the city, not the county. We're talking about 0.0005%.
Still, I wouldn't put it there because
Is that 3
2,000.
zeros or 4 zeros?
That's 3 zeros.
3 zeros?
It's still 2,000 people. Let's face it. You don't want when you put human beings in those numbers. It's like, oh my gosh, that's painful. 2,000 people out of home. But the reality is, this isn't addressing the issue. This
Okay.
proposition is not addressing the issue.
Correct.
Bingo,
This
bingo.
proposition does not address the issue.
No.
So then they go on to say the cost of homelessness is estimated at $35,000 to $45,000
Who-
annually per homeless person, which is unsustainable.
What I want to know,
Prop
what do they
21
do for it? What do they do?
ensures fewer people lose their homes,
That's
saving
not true.
taxpayer
I don't
homes.
agree. But my question is, what are they doing with those 35,000? Because guess what? If those families were getting those 35,000, they wouldn't be homeless.
Well, the
I don't know.
$35,000
$35,000 doesn't go a long way in California.
$35,000 is the reason why it costs for those homeless people is
That's
because
your
often
shelter, that's your
homeless people require often more
medical
shelters,
services.
medical
Medical,
services,
yes.
and then they
first
are a huge
responders.
first
That is true.
responder suck, and it's not because they are calling
Yes.
first response; it's because they are calling, but also the public.
break-in.
Yes,
Oh,
someone's
yeah.
vomiting on my lawn.
Get it done
Yeah.
app.
Please, and then you have the police,
I
you
see.
have the
So
fire
it's for
department
those
come
kind
out.
of services, not necessarily direct services, everything.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that is a big stretch to say that doing this cap is, this 15%
Yeah.
is really going to stop.
This is a big stretch
homelessness.
for them.
That's a big stretch.
Now,
I
what
think.
this is.
Well, it sounds like the
what-
both of
what
you are a
this-
big no so far.
Well, what I'm not a no yet
still
because I'm
waiting.
still
Okay.
I'm still curious of how the money shift is going to be from landlord
Sure.
and renter.
Yes.
So that's what I really have the hang up on right now, and I'd like to go back to that.
Okay, so we're gonna get to those questions. So that's my question for you guys. How do you want to tilt the economy? And this is one way of tilting the economy. That's what they're essentially saying, is that we're tilting the economy in favor of preventing people from losing housing.
So this is when you say they, you're saying the proponents
Yes,
for Proposition
proponents,
21.
proponents.
They say you're tilting the economy. How you want to tilt the economy? I want the economy to tilt in my favor.
As a landlord or as a renter? What are you talking
Well,
about?
right now I'm a renter, and I would like to be a landlord.
Okay. Okay.
That's so funny.
I'm a pretty fortunate person because I do live in a nice location and I pay low rent, and I have landlords that are not trying to gouge us by any means. So I have good landlords.
So you're saying
And
you
I
don't
have.
need this?
And
Or you don't need this
I
law?
personally don't, but I think that I'm an exception to this. I think that there's a predominant amount of population who rents, and those are people who are probably going to be impacted by this law one way or another, whether it's approved or denied. Now, I think that 15% cap is nice and it protects renters, but I don't know how that's really implemented.
Right.
So can you elaborate on that?
What do you mean how it's implemented?
How is a normal person who's renting, a normal family who's renting, and they sign their lease year after year, they renew it. That's a new contract. They're not new tenants. They're going to stay there for 3 to 6 years. We'll just leave it at 6 years.
Sure.
So is 15% the cap for all 6 years?
Yes.
So in all reality, the landlord could say, after your first year, I'm going to jack it up 15%. You
Nope.
have 5
Can only
years.
do up to 5% plus inflation.
So this doesn't trump Gavin Newsom's 5%.
No. It works in conjunction with it.
Okay, so you have 3 years to raise 5% after your third year plus inflation. You're up to your 15% max. You're
Correct.
going to pay, but you're going to continue to possibly pay inflation for the remainder of your 6-year contract.
No,
3
no
years.
inflation. No inflation after that.
So
So if you're paying
year one, 5% plus inflation. Year two, 5% plus inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Year three, 5% plus inflation.
Up
Year
to
four,
up to 15%,
right?
period. Not plus inflation,
Oh, not plus inflation.
period.
But can then, Gavin, but then how about the 5% from the governor, from the state law?
What about
that also, then after those 3 years, and you can
No, no, no.
increase-
That's what we're
No,
saying.
it's done.
Yeah,
It's
that's what we're
done.
saying.
It's done.
So it's done.
So
You can't
inflation
increase
is
5%.
included in the 15%
I see.
max.
So my question to you is, what do you think landlords? So let's think about the implications, because I'm starting to go that way economically. Okay, how are the economics going to be impacted in the state? But let's start even easier. What do you think landlords are going to do in response to this? If it passes, what do you think landlords are going to start doing?
And that's
You're a
what I was
landlord.
mentioning earlier. I think they're going to try to find excuses to kick out tenants, and I think you're going to see less money being put into their rental property for upgrades and improvements.
I wrote down here one word: ruthlessness.
Ruthlessness.
in terms of kicking them out.
In terms of kicking them
Yeah.
out. You saw that, I think it was on Hulu or Netflix, about Jared Kushner and his rental properties. And in New York, you saw that one, right?
No, I didn't. But these are slumlords. There's a lot of slumlords
Yeah.
that are in California.
Yeah, this was in New York specifically, in rent-controlled properties, and he would try to force people out by having loud construction, not making repairs, just making it generally
I
very
remember,
awful.
I remember seeing something about this. Maybe I did see that.
Yeah, this is Jared Kushner's Kushner
It's funny, we
Properties.
have loud construction going on in our complex right now. They're putting in a new roof.
Oh, well, at least that's an improvement. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there,
But this
yeah,
would
in
be
New
at like
York-
3 a.m., 4 a.m.
What
Start
about what
early.
about ownership changes? Like, let's say that you have a rental property in your name. You're now confined by this new proposition, but you want to change that property into LLC.
No. It's the lease agreement. So the lease agreement holds and carries over.
Okay.
You can't. There's no way that people are
Okay.
going to be changing hands like that all the time either.
I see.
Hey, so
that's a
how
good point.
about
So what else do you think landlords might do? So one of the things is landlords could start making it uncomfortable for you to live there in order to pressure you to get out, which creates really a tension between it pits the landlord against the tenant in a new way. It adds some
yeah?
opportunities for conflict. It doesn't reduce opportunities for conflict, it increases opportunities for conflict. If you agree with that.
I don't know. I like to think that landlords are going to have good intentions and want to keep a good tenant in spot and happy. I mean, that's stable general income coming in, right?
Yeah.
But of course, there are those tenants or those landlords who want more money or want to pick up. I don't know. I'm kind of torn with this. I want to say yes, but I really don't understand how property ownership works right now in California. I don't know how that balance actually looks. Don't know if it's predominantly renters. I don't know if it's predominantly conglomerations that own or private investors that own rentals.
A lot
I
of
really don't know.
a lot of corporations, and the reason is because California is a great place to live, and this is where if you're going to have real estate, this is a great place to have it because it just keeps going up. So
I
there
would
are a lot of
completely assume that
corporations.
it's conglomerate.
Yeah, I would say there's probably more conglomerates than that probably have higher weighted
Yeah.
stuff.
So-
Like there might be more mom and pop owners, but the
preponderance.
wealth concentration is probably going to
Yeah.
be in properties that are owned commercially.
So I think the consequences of this then, if under the assumption that California renter properties are owned by predominantly conglomerates, these are the people that have the lawyers, that have the means to
Yeah.
strong arm and push out the little man. So just on that statement alone, I'm a no on this.
Well, let me keep asking some questions. How do you think renters would react in California to this bill? What do you think the default human nature is if you have rent control?
Well,
I mean,
this
it
is-
sounds to me like it's just going to keep money in
yeah, in their pocket.
bank
So
account.
it's like, yeah, this is good for us. I mean, if it's not going to increase, but at the same time, what if the homeowner they just increase it right there the first year, and then these 2
Well, it's only
years.
5%, and then another 5%, and then a following 5%.
Right.
It's not that big of an
Potentially.
increase.
So
And if you can
I
manage
don't
that
live
hit,
close enough to outside my means where 5% is going to impact me.
Right.
Right,
for the
but
first
there's a
3
lot of
years.
people in the U.S. even they don't even have $400 right now in their bank account.
well, you're
I
right.
know, that's
Well, you're
true.
right, Mom.
That's
So,
true.
0.0005% are going to be forced out into the streets.
Yes.
Well, so as a renter and looking at this potential increase in rent, it just comes down to me wanting to be an owner more so.
Yeah.
But that's
So-
because you can, but those
Yeah.
people
That's
who cannot.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
You
you're
have that
financially
option.
minded.
Yes. Well, they are. He has his privilege. I mean, we are privileged. We can actually. You know what? We're just gonna buy it because I can't continue to do this. But there are people who they would never have a down payment. I mean, I just
Never
say
saved,
some
yeah.
of them have $400 at most in their back. Not even
Right.
so that if they have an emergency, they don't have money. So those people, I mean, they can't. The decision of to buy now, they're going to have to move, and that's one point that they make is that instead of keeping people in their neighborhoods and stuff, now they're going to have to uproot their families and take them somewhere else where they can find cheaper rent.
Yes.
So they're going to keep moving, finding cheaper rent.
That is one argument
Yes.
for the proposition is that you're uprooting families too consistently.
Correct.
However, I would think as a renter, personally, if I was renting and didn't have aspirations for home ownership,
Yeah.
if I found a great deal, I'm not budging.
You're not moving.
I'm not moving, even if I have too much home for me because it's a great deal.
Yeah.
So one of the arguments for against this is that rent control creates severe competition for the lowest type of housing in the market, so the renters are going to consume more. So what'll end up happening over the years is that you're going to have empty nest apartments. This is one of the arguments. Empty nest apartments, or for example, like you're a family, you rented a home, the kids went on, but you're not going to leave because the
Yes.
rent's so cheap.
Yes.
But now you have way more home than you
Than
actually
budget
need.
Yes. Yes.
But then you also have cramming, where if you were a young couple, you're
Yes.
in this property, now you have a child, you're not going to leave because the rent is so cheap. So that's one of the arguments. And
That's an argument against.
Does this prevent gentrification of neighborhoods as well?
I mean, what do you think?
Possibly. I mean, if you have a good deal and you're going to stay put, you don't want to pose the risk of your rent going up 15% when you move to a new location because you're happy and content where you are. This reduces the amount of movement within society.
Yes.
Yes, but then you have this too much house, for example, in those situations that they
Yeah.
so
Urban
you-
sprawl would be slowed down.
because
which
people stay.
I'm an
yeah.
advocate for slowing down urban
Oh
sprawl.
yeah, me too. Me too. But I can see that point of then people who actually need bigger homes, they can. This bigger apartment can rent it because people are staying put.
Yeah.
They're staying there for years and years. Why would they leave?
Now
and
look-
also they love their neighborhood. They're not going to how do you say, to house down. They're not going to. Those who have a really nicer places.
And as a person who may live in the neighborhood, let's say you own your property, but the majority on your block rent. Do you necessarily want the block that you live on to stagnate in terms of the type of housing and options that come into your
Yeah.
neighborhood? Are you okay with it being stagnant and everyone just staying there and remaining on an income level that may be either outpacing yours or way behind yours? Maybe they all stay the same. Maybe things just stay the same. But you may have aspirations that your neighborhood thrives and grows and becomes more wealthy. But that may not happen under this new law.
It's not going to happen if you are in a neighborhood that is predominantly renting anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think that's the important thing to note right there. I mean, if you're in a neighborhood where you are surrounded by other homeowners, then I think that your chances of your home property value going up is higher.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you have
much
people
better.
who have that type of that drive to put in money into their home for a return on equity.
So does that make someone who lives in renter, mostly occupied places have stagnant growth and not have the best tenants, not have a great neighborhood to live in? Like, what does that do to a neighborhood?
I don't know, but I was just thinking that America's values is like you go and you buy your home. No every place is like that. People stay renting forever, but here we always, if you have money, you make the calculation. Is it cheaper to buy than to rent? So
I mean, technically, it's cheaper
So-
for me to rent, but long term, it's not. It costs more
You
money.
mentioned some of the supporters and their individuals. Do you have any of the groups that back these or deny these?
Groups, so
Like
unions.
Homeowner Association of California or something like that. I don't know if that even exists. Something similar.
or
Yeah.
who is against them? Like it's in
Against
addition,
is
you mentioned the governor, but I don't know.
Chamber of Commerce, California Chamber of Commerce, Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce. You have the American Legion, Department of California. I don't even know what that is. California Taxpayers Association, California NAACP. You have
NAACP is against this measure.
yeah, California NAACP State Conference
Huh. Against it.
against it.
That's interesting.
So people who are for it are the ACLU of Southern California, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. They have the Eviction Defense Network, which I don't know what that is. The Democratic Socialists of America, that's an obvious one. So you do have some of these groups, but another one of the arguments is that there would be no new maintenance. So essentially, if you're a landlord, you're like, why the hell am I going to upgrade your property?
That's right. If nobody's
Yeah,
got.
that's what I think.
Yeah, because why would you upgrade?
Why would you upgrade?
Upgrades cost a lot of money too.
Yes.
And if you can't get that money from rent,
Now
See,
also think of like a
I'm
new
one of
builder.
those tenants who actually does the upgrades myself. Like, I put a new dishwasher in.
oh wow.
I put a new ceiling fan in. I'm going to paint the walls. Those things.
Yeah.
And you buy the
Yeah.
stuff yourself? Are you gonna take it when
No.
you go? Oh
No.
wow.
But
So
you're
you
the-
are very different.
Yes, you're the
Yeah.
rare exception.
You are so
I-
rare.
I
you're,
don't.
You're handy.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
handy
not
'cause
a
I do
natu-
it myself. I don't
No.
hire a contractor.
Yeah,
to do it
that's
That's
myself.
not a
That's not
natural-
normal.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for me, I want to live in a comfortable spot. Yeah, this is going to possibly slow me down long term for buying my own place, but really, like a dishwasher is not going to impact my momentum that much.
Right. Which is why you have people like Jared Kushner who are looking to make huge profits on prime New York real estate, and he's
Yeah.
trying to force these people out because, and the some of the people that they mentioned on that show, they could definitely not afford New York anymore. They moved in
Oh,
20 years ago, and New
Of
York
course.
has moved on.
Yep.
And I do wonder, in my view, is when you move into a property, is it your responsibility to continue to keep up to pace with the changes around you, or should the world try to accommodate your unwillingness or lack of foresight to recognize that there's tides coming, the changes are
This
coming?
is a capitalist market. I think it's your responsibility to stay up on yourself with it.
That's what I'm saying. There are so many values embedded in this. You know, you have the home ownership is one of the American values. Then you also have capitalism.
Yeah.
Then we talk about social justice, but it's like we're not really addressing the issues with this proposition.
No, because what are the issues? The
It's
issues that
hard.
they pointed out,
Yeah.
homelessness,
It's
which
cannot-
isn't going to be
it's not
fixed
going to be
by
fixed with this.
by rent control. You're going to need more affordable housing, you're going to need better services, and there needs to be, in my view, some degree of acceptance that there's going to be people who are the dredges of society. That's
Yeah.
going to happen. And because we're a very prominent society in California, you're going to come here. It's not because California's broken. It's because this is the best place to be if you're homeless. You know, they like I think that's a real. Oh, what's that? I think that's a big like a right wing talking point. Is like, look how broken those democratic societies are, or places that are run by Democrats. Is that they have all these homeless? It's like, yeah, because you don't want to be freaking homeless in Nebraska. You don't want to be homeless in Utah. You die. You're not going to die on the streets of San Diego from the weather.
You are a bear taco in Montana if you're homeless.
Yeah, right. Like, that's not going to work well. Plus, there's a lot more free services because there's people who are just more kind-hearted. Not because there's not kind-hearted people in the red states, but it's the sense that there are people whose values are oriented more towards giving rather than being a little more stern with their money.
Right.
So no new maintenance. That's one of the concerns.
I think I have my opinion made on this.
Okay. So the ballot's in front of you. What do you vote, Scott?
I think I'm a no.
Yeah.
I'm a no. I don't want rent control like this. I think that this is a poor tug at your heartstrings for some emotionally driven challenges. And I also think that this is just going to make bad landlords.
I think it's going to make bad landlords. You're creating opportunities to create conflict between landlords and renters. And I don't think this world needs more opportunities for conflict.
I think it creates bad landlords, and I think it also probably pushes out some good landlords and some good possibilities for owners and owners to own to live in and owners to rent.
It would de-incentivize me from buying property in California.
Exactly.
And do you want less money coming into California?
Yeah. I'm curious if the people who propose this proposal, if they are themselves part of a conglomerate
Yeah, right.
that owns a bunch of property around
It wouldn't be because
Or
they would vote. They wouldn't want those things for the.
I think
It is curious. I would have to look into that. Maybe I can do that at another time. But the AIDS Healthcare Foundation donated $20.6 million. And I wonder what the AIDS Healthcare Foundation has to do with this. Maybe they have a good reason. But they $20 million out of the total contributions, which is $24 million. So, that's a lot of money. The opposition had a total of $41 million, almost $42 million, or $41.5 million in contributions.
Well, there it is for me. I'm a no.
Okay, Mom, the ballot's in front of you. How do you vote?
I think I'm a no because I don't believe that they are tackling the issues. I don't believe that on the merits. I'm just looking at the merits. I don't believe that it does anything of what it's saying that it's going to be. I think that we need to have a system solution, a system level solution.
Yes.
And this isn't the way to address it.
Yeah, I think they tried to. Convince you that they were addressing these key issues through rent control, and it's clear through those tugs at homelessness. And I really don't think that's a good sound argument because when you focus on 2,000 people out of 4 million.
But don't get it wrong, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's still sad. It's a tragedy.
That's just tragic that in this country, a rich country, we have this situation. It's tragic. It's a failure.
Let's think about this, though. A 5% increase would force 2,000 people out on the street. I don't know that that's a problem with rent increases as much as it is a problem with financial budgeting, which we do not teach people in this country.
Yeah, I think it's an issue with those 2,000 individuals more than I think it's an issue with rent control.
I don't know.
But
Well, hold on. Let me tell you what a 5% increase is. So let me put it in numerical perspective. So they listed here, and I think that this is very under... they said all of California, this is the average, and I think that that's incorrect. Or excuse me, this is L.A. The average income is $91,000, which, remember, L.A. has a huge skewed distribution because of all the massive amounts of wealth.
Yeah.
Now they say that the average rent, and I'm like, there's no way, because I think it's higher in San Diego. Average rent is $1,300. $1,376.
The average rent is $1,300.
$1,376. That seems low, doesn't it?
That seems too low for. I can't believe that.
That's what I saw.
What does it include? Average isn't good.
Is this LA County, LA City, and also rent? How many people are really renters in the area that they're counting,
Right.
as opposed to owners?
I think they're just looking at all of all rent in the city. So let's assume it's $2,000. Okay, how much do you think 5% of $2,000 is?
I mean, it's 5% out of $24,000.
No, it's $2,000 a month. 10% is $200, so 5% is $100 a month.
Okay.
So that's
$1,200
$1,200 a
a
year
year.
more.
So $100 a month more.
Yes.
That means that someone is forced into homelessness over $100.
That's right. That's crazy.
That is
No, I don't think that that's realistic. I think what's realistic is those 2,000 people who can't afford an extra $100 a month, they have pride, ego, addiction, they have a lot of different issues.
Well-
And I don't think $100 is much to come
Low-paying
up
jobs.
with.
I mean, some people are living right at the edge, and there's like a tipping point above something you just can't make it.
Okay.
But I agree with you. There's more to the point. But I that rent sounds way too low. You know, to
2,000.
think.
So, but
Yes.
I used a high number above the average of what the rents calculate
Yes.
at. But let me paint this picture another way. This means that a 100 increase. Think of how small of a target you would have to be able to hit to solve that problem for 2,000 people out of 4 million. Think about the amount of resources it would take to hit that. Like, you really have a small gap in addressing that issue. That's what, $1,200 a year?
But you're only dealing. I mean, right now we're only talking about 2,000, but you know that there's more than 2,000 homeless.
Oh, for sure.
So we're just dealing with these people, with these families or individuals that get pushed out with a with an increase.
This is a prime example of how this is manipulating your thought process.
That's what it
with
is.
Tugging at your emotions. This
Right.
does not address the issue of homelessness.
No.
This does not address the issue of true rent control.
So this is what I mean is that it's really difficult to separate the rhetoric from the actual bills. And I wonder, do you think we need to look at these bills on its merits, or do we also have to consider the rhetoric that they use in order to get you to vote yes or no? Is that play a part of your equation when you're looking at a ballot?
100% it's a part of the equation for the average person who's looking at this at a surface level. I mean, for any ballot, you're going to look at it and you're like, oh, for education? Oh, cool, yeah, I'm for education.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Right.
start chasing the money. No, it doesn't go to education, fool.
Yeah.
You look at Proposition 21. What is the title of this? I'm sure there's something catchy in there.
The title is Local Rent Control Initiative.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we're going to put rules on local rent control? Or with local rent control? Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta.
But what about you? Do you think that the rhetoric, can you separate the rhetoric from the policies?
You know, the reality is that it takes so much effort. One, to do this, what we're doing, takes so much effort. Most people don't have that. First of all, they don't have the time. Second, they don't know how to research. Third, they're not going to be critically thinking about it.
Yeah,
They
I was
don't
up
have
till
time.
I was 11
They don't
o'clock. I
have
was still looking
time
this stuff up
to do this.
But you're up till 11 o'clock looking this up?
last night. Yeah,
Okay. I don't know. if
With
I
some
buy
prior
that
research.
People don't have time for this. I think that that's life choices that people choose not to have time. I think that people who want to make time for something that generally should impact them and be concerned about
But
something
they
that impacts them, they don't. And I think that's a cultural issue. I don't think that that's an excuse.
that's not an excuse.
But you know, they're talking about this citizen-driven. I mean, this is citizen-driven governance. People
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, I want to do this," but if you're not willing to be informed, then you shouldn't really be making these decisions.
I agree with that completely.
You know what I'm saying? It's
I
like,
agree with that,
if you
100%.
want citizen-driven governance, but then you must put
Yeah.
the time that it takes. But most people don't.
Well-
They will tell you that I don't have time. I don't really. And the other thing that you know, these things, they're so confusing.
They're
What's-
so
what's an
confusing.
uneducated
so,
voter?
So it's not only
What
so
is
it's,
an uneducated voter?
What do you mean?
What's an uneducated voter? I'm asking a question. What is an uneducated voter?
A non-educated.
That's tough to say.
voter,
It's somebody who probably hasn't even thought through the implications of their actions.
A pawn.
a pawn in the
Oh, a
system.
pawn,
That's
a
right.
pawn.
That's all they are. They're
Or just a
pawn in the
cog.
system.
So would
Right
that
there.
mean we're like little bishops or rooks in this
Yeah,
case?
we're not
Or
quite
little,
masters.
No.
We're not
No.
kings.
little knights.
We're not knights.
We can move around a little bit more.
We can move around a little bit more. We're jesters.
yeah. And we could switch sides.
But yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true.
Plus, you know, you get all those ads and all that stuff. Like, oh yeah, you know, yeah.
So
that sounds
so
good.
we're a pawn that
Give-
can get to the other side and become a queen. There you go.
That would be nice. But you see, the other thing with this is about, oh, of course I want the local government to have the control.
Yes.
Let them
it's-
decide.
It's
like,
it's fantastic that there's people who are trying to become educated and understanding these types of propositions. But what's unfortunate is how fast this stuff moves
Yeah.
through the system.
Very.
I mean, I don't even know how recently Ballotpedia put up the ballot for California, but I remember specifically looking before we started this project that it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then like a week later it popped
Oh,
up.
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And not only that, but we also don't see all the propositions that did not pass. And
Right.
some of them made
Right.
a lot of sense.
But-
Did you know, Scott?
Do you have any of your pamphlets yet?
Okay. Oh, I got some pamphlets.
I haven't gotten mine yet.
Oh, really?
They haven't come in the mail yet.
Oh,
for me.
you're to vote?
But you
Just
see,
educational pamphlets.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but you see, it takes time. Like they hadn't even said you have to make the effort, but that's because
Conscientious
you're
effort.
motivated.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
conscientious
Most
effort.
people are not motivated.
But
The stuff
you
comes-
also have people who are not motivated coupled with people who are intentionally misleading you. So it's a double whammy effect.
Yeah. You have people who are motivated, but they're getting misinformation.
Yes.
So we'll talk next week about this, but Barbara Bry and Todd Gloria are running for mayor.
Yeah.
So check this out. I thought, because I haven't looked into them as much, and then I thought Barbara Bry was a Republican because I got something in the mail that said the Republican's choice for mayor, Barbara Bry. She stood with Trump on this. She was against the executive thing, and then I looked it up. She's a registered Democrat. And there was a news story that went out about negative ads about both Todd Gloria and Barbara Bry, and they had no idea who's distributing these false information flyers. That's hilarious. So somebody could have seen that and been like, you know what? I'm not voting for the Republican candidate. I'm voting for the Democrat because that's the only one. And it's like, they're both Democrats.
See,
Yeah.
that's the worst argument that somebody can pose to me.
Mm-hmm.
I am a lifelong Republican. I'm going to vote Republican. I'm
Yeah.
a lifelong Democrat.
So
I'm
bad.
going to vote Democrat. I'm sorry, you said this earlier. You're a registered Democrat.
I am a registered Democrat, but it doesn't mean that I look still at
Yeah.
other things. But let's just be honest. I'm not going to vote for the GOP because I do not agree with their values.
That's fair.
I
That's
mean,
fair.
and that's the thing. Now, would I be fine, for example, when, for example, with Mitt Romney, I would have been fine,
but
know?
I think
Although he keeps flip-flopping, and I don't like that. But you know what I'm saying?
McCain?
Like
McCain would have been,
McCain, before
yeah.
he went, yeah. But I would have, McCain,
Yep.
you respect the man.
Yeah,
think-
respect the
I
man.
think that part of the problem that we see in this, I think, is directly tied to Mitch McConnell and
Oh,
directly
yes.
tied to
Gosh,
this.
we love
I'm
Mitch
going
McConnell
to
on this show.
stop any bill that's being presented
Yeah.
by the Obama administration
Yep.
simply because it's the Obama
It's
administration.
Obama administration, yeah.
And
then
got us
Nancy
to move on
Pelosi,
it.
Similarly, I want to put an end to anything Trump related simply because it's Trump
Mm-hmm.
related. I hate the man myself, but there's some things that I agree with him. And same thing with on the other side with Obama. I don't agree with everything that Obama had, but I like the man.
Right.
So if the ballot's in front of me, I'm going to vote no too on this. By the way, I also saw that on Move, I think it's movematter.com, movesomething.com. They said
Move
the
on.
average rent in San Diego was $2,168.
Average
So-
rent for how big of a place?
I didn't look.
Studios,
They
everything
did
cool.
break it down between 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, but they said that
2,100, that's pretty good.
5% per year.
Uh-huh.
The average rent has increased, and then last year was 7%. So if we went to the rent control, we're only 5% increase, and you got a 15%. You could be that 15% over the first 3 years could be great, but then by the second or third year, you've already exceeded another 15%.
Right. Then you're up a creek as a owner.
So I just think this one is just. I think you all are right. This bill is trying to tell you that it's addressing social problems, but it's really not.
But you already also said that they tried this. What was in 2017 or
2018? They
and
tried
it
this.
Didn't go.
Didn't
It's
pass.
Like, I don't like that they're trying to manipulate you
Yep.
into thinking that this is addressing issue. I'd be curious, like, what is the real motivation
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, there's
Because I
underlying-
don't see what is the motivation.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else that's tied to this.
So we're gonna talk for a little bit more, and then we're gonna go on a break to get some pizza. But by the way, getting Lefty's Pizza over on 30th Street. It is bomb, deep dish style.
We're not paid to plug that in.
No, it's just freaking good food.
Just talking about good
I
pizza.
love their food. $30 for a pizza, man. You get something super
With
easy.
rate of inflation and
Well, $28. $28.
and caps to rent pizza control.
So to kickstart the next proposition, which is Prop 24, this is California Consumer Privacy Act. I just want to know from you personally, how do you feel about internet privacy?
Oh, I want privacy. But what do you mean by internet privacy?
Like, okay, so I collect your information,
Yes,
personal
no,
data,
yeah.
share it, sell it. How do you feel about that
I
process?
think that's absolutely wrong. But then on the other hand, this is the problem. As Americans, when the government asks you to give out your information, you're like, no, I'm not giving it to government. And yet, we are willingly giving information to these platforms. Like we give away our children.
Yeah.
We give away our most intimate secrets online. I think, no, I would like to have privacy. I
So-
want to be able to die.
To
In
die?
to die in the sense
Oh.
on the if I decide
You
to
can
get
die,
off,
don't worry.
no, yeah, no. If I decide to get off, why should I still have that footprint out there if I don't want to?
What about you, Scott? How are you on the privacy matter on the web? Do you care about Facebook collecting your information? Do you care about website storing your cookies and what kind of habits you have on the web?
Well, I'm going to say cautioningly, I do care, but I don't care.
Okay, tell me what that means.
I willingly participate in Facebook. And I am very aware that Facebook uses that information that I post for a culmination of things, particularly advertisements. I am not consenting with them, like maybe attaching to my browser history.
Yeah.
I'm not consenting to them. I mean, I suppose I did consent with them when they review their terms and conditions. Shit like that's always popped up in there.
Okay.
But that's not something that I want to see. However, if I check in and I'm at a location, let's say I'm at a bar and Facebook sees that I have checked in at this bar, I would fully anticipate that I'm going to have an ad pop up in my feed at some point. Well, you checked in here. We
Are you
think
cool
might
with
like
those
this place.
personalized ads?
It's the price that I pay for being on social media. Now, if I'm not on social media and I'm just cruising the internet, I don't have my Facebook opened, or I'm not even a member of Facebook, let's just say, I don't want my ad or my browser history to be used to track me.
Okay, so let's say your browser history, you are searching
I'm looking
for
for a new bike.
new bike, and then you start getting ads about bikes.
Yeah.
Don't
I
like
had
that.
something like that where I was looking up cameras, and then a few days later, it's like a huge manual, like a manual of all these cameras was
Yeah.
shipped to me. It was mailed to me. I was like, what?
I don't like that. What's crazy is
I
we're
don't
having
like
this
that.
conversation right now. Our phones are off,
That's right.
but applications are still open, and we might be
Being recorded anyway.
cruising something later, and all of a sudden a little ad pops up for a new bike with a camera attached,
Or it's
Because
like-
you say that.
and we don't even have our damn phones open.
You know what I've been getting lately? Propositions for other states.
Oh wow!
In my feed, they're like, Arizona's passing this new law. I was like, what? They're
So-
like, you must love this type of information.
So I mentioned yesterday that I'm getting those propositions in my feed for Facebook, and I'm trolling them. Where I'm advocating this podcast. I'm going to their website, and after I see it pop up on my feed, like, oh, no on Prop 20, cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to no on Prop 20. And I'm gonna post our social Thorns on
That's what you
everything.
have to
Yeah.
do.
That's what we
yes.
gotta do.
Oh wait, we see that you're commenting no on Prop 20. How do you feel about this proposition? Same thing, going to that other one.
That's hilarious.
But I don't agree with it. I think it's sleazy. I think it's sleazy marketing.
Do you think it's
manipulation to a consumer?
Do you think it's okay to sell people's personal and private information?
100% no.
Nope.
100% no.
Even if you opted into the service?
100% no.
Right.
Why
No.
not?
Why, yes. First of all, do you realize that
This is a capitalist
No,
society.
but it was, first of all, it was, we are the owners of the internet. It was the government who developed the internet, and now these companies have capitalized, and now they are taking our information, what we paid, and then they are making money off
Yeah.
it.
I say 100% no, even if we're opting into this program, because I really don't believe that the consumer understands what their information could be sold and utilized for.
Yeah.
I think that there is just a gross misuse of that information without true consent.
Without consent, and they put terms and conditions. Who reads all
That was my
stuff?
other question. How do you
Then
feel
they-
about terms and conditions?
Come on, and then they change it, and then they make it so hard, and
They also add stuff in there. We have the right to amend this. So if you've already been subscribed, all they have to do is send you the new
That's
amended
exactly
thing,
what
and it's
Facebook
like
does.
Yes.
huge.
and you
That's what they
remem-
all do. Hey, by the
Yeah.
way, we've updated our terms and conditions. It's in your email. You can't say we
Exactly.
didn't.
But you remember how when there was, I don't know, but when you used to be able to unsubscribe, like from these phone calls,
Yeah.
it was so hard to unsubscribe. It is so hard to unsubscribe from what you don't want.
Same thing with just any generic emails. I mean, I bought some product from a company actually in Montana,
And it automatically
and
enrolls
I
you.
automatically was enrolled in about 5 different auto emails, and I got them every day, and I had to unsubscribe from each one. It's ridiculous that I have to do that. I don't want to open up an email from an address that I don't know, because obviously it's a risk. And I don't have to go through that process to unsubscribe something. I shouldn't have to have been in that to begin with. And
I create.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ballotpedia. I love the website. That's where we get a lot of information from. It's a good surface level guide. But I made the mistake of having my email open in another page when I opened up that website. And I got flooded with junk mail because of that.
No way.
From them.
From Ballotpedia?
From Ballotpedia.
No way.
Wow.
So
No, they
do not open up a website with your email open in
interesting.
another browser.
Yeah, I didn't
That's
know
so
that.
funny.
Heaven
Even
forbid you do that.
in a different browser.
Yeah, different browser. Different page.
A different page, different tab page, but
Different
same
tab
browser.
page, same browser,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
so
so
that's the
funny.
same. Oh, interesting though. I had no idea about
No,
that.
ridiculous. Ridiculous. I
I
didn't
mean,
give
we
them
always-
any of my information. All I did was just, they're
Peruse the
They're
page.
catching cookies.
Yeah.
They're catching your
Yes.
crumbs.
Well, that's why. Gosh, you're grown. So that's why I create a fake Gmail account that just anything I enter to buy online, I just go through this email that I just don't even monitor because it's just full. I have thousands of emails in there
Yeah.
from
Yep.
everyday solicitations that I didn't register for.
I did the same
you know-
thing, but I managed it poorly. You could go and register for a point system at your Froyo shop down the road, and you get your 10
You
visits
fell
and you get a
for it.
Froyo. Well, I would use this dummy account all the time, but then I found myself, I kind of want that free freight. So I'm going to go and get into my account and pull it up. I'm like, oh, man. Now I'm using the email.
That's hilarious.
Oh my god, is that a proposition?
Yeah, so there's a proposition on the ballot, but we'll resume it after we go get some pizza.
Let's get some pie.
All right, we're back, and we left off at the introduction of Prop 24, the California Consumer Privacy Act, and so far, Scott and Ms. Patria and myself, I don't think I gave my perspective on privacy.
And you didn't really say all the details.
I didn't give you any details on this
correct.
act.
So
Yeah, well, personally, in terms of the privacy, I hate those terms and conditions pages that are so difficult to read. I've actually read through some of them just to verify what they use the personal information for. I know.
No,
I've
it's
actually read
tough.
through this stuff.
It's lawyer speak.
Yes,
Yes.
it's lawyer speak.
legal document.
Well,
it's
unfortunately, that's not going to change.
yeah.
So, the California Consumer Privacy Act of 2018. Let me tell you what this does, because that's the only way to understand what this proposition
because
adds to.
you mentioned that there was one that passed in 2018, and then now you have an extension.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Actually, let's go back. Let me just tell you what this one does, and then we'll go back to the original bill. So,
Okay.
this says that you have the right. This is the CCPA, so the original bill. I'm sorry for the confusion. CCPA says that you have the right to know how your personal information is being collected and how it's shared.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what 2018 CCPA added. You have the right to delete personal information collected. So you tell the business, hey, delete my personal
Yes.
information.
Okay.
So now you have that right.
Again, that's 2018.
2018.
Okay.
You have the right to opt out of selling personal information. So do you understand that? So
Yes.
opt out is the system where you enrolled in something and then you have to go somewhere and then you have to opt out.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
But let's be clear though, none of these options populate when you go to any of these websites.
And that was my question. I mean,
Where's
Yeah.
my
where is that?
Yeah, where is my
Yeah.
button to
No.
hit that says don't track me or sell my info?
So that is on your apps, on your phone. You say you can put in there.
Is that in privacy? Or
Yeah,
something?
privacy settings. And also when you go to these web pages, you have to unsubscribe if you're subscribed to them. So you have to do things like that. Also, by the way, so you have the right to opt out, okay? But in 12 months, they have the right to re-ask if you would like to opt back in.
But can they? Okay, so they have the right
That's
to
so
ask, but they
annoying.
can't do it automatically.
No, they can't do it automatically.
Okay.
No.
That's so annoying.
And then the fourth provision of the CCPA was...
Oh, excuse me. And if you don't answer, is that a
it's
consent?
not an opt-in. No, it's not. Not
Okay,
consent.
so
You have to consent.
so that's good. Okay.
So 4 is that you have the right to non-discrimination for exercising your rights. So essentially, if you enforce or exercise your rights, you shouldn't be discriminated because of that. Now, this bill...
Well, that's funny because the page won't load.
What? Oh,
I said no, page won't load. That's discrimination.
Yeah, so you're actually hitting on something that's a big piece about this bill. So a yes vote, this is what Ballotpedia says, a yes vote supports this ballot initiative to expand the state's consumer privacy laws,
Okay.
including provisions to allow consumers to direct business to not share their personal information, remove the time period in which businesses can fix violations before being penalized. So if you were to violate one of these 4
Yeah.
things, then you would be penalized, but you had 30 days to correct it.
Okay.
This bill says you don't get time. Once you violate it, you
Oh,
are charged
right away.
$700 or $450 per transaction.
Okay.
If it's under a 16-year-old, so if they're 16 years old and you violated this, it's up to $750 per transaction. So if you did this for 100,000 minors, ooh, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And then it also
How much? 7,000 per violation?
no, 750 per violation. Because you think there's a lot of
People.
each
Yeah.
individual transaction is
I
going to
see.
be
Yeah,
a violation.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then this is an interesting piece of it is that they're going to create the Privacy Protection Agency to enforce the state's consumer data privacy law. So currently, the Attorney General assumed that. So that's under the Department of Justice. But this bill is saying that that is insufficient to actually regulate and implement and enforce. Instead, they want to create this little group of 4 people, 3 to 4 people
The
with
board?
a board selected by the governor to enact these things rather than the Department of Justice.
Okay. So that's with the new legislation. That's the
That's what the
expansion.
that's the expansion.
So right now it's the Department of Justice that's enforcing it.
Yeah. Now, let me...
I don't know if I like that.
Okay.
Why don't you like the board or?
Yeah, I don't know if I like a board selected by the local government, state government to do
I think
this.
that is an understated I think that implication for this is not recognized as a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It's a
Why,
huge
why
deal.
is it a big deal?
Well,
Okay,
Yeah.
so who is going to be nominated?
Okay.
they have to be qualified.
Who's qualified to do so?
Yeah.
Who
Right.
operates business here in California, in Silicon Valley, and these tech conglomerates that have your far-reaching hand going into your information? Amazon. Who's going to be able to put lobbyist money to be able to buy these offices? This chair and the board.
So are you saying wait? Because I'm wondering, are you saying that the people right now, right, who are enforcing this in the Department of Justice, you say, well, they're qualified. They're qualified to do this. You think they're qualified to actually go after
So
this?
I think
or
that's
no?
a fair argument, is that I don't know that the district attorney or the attorney general is actually expert enough to understand the issues with privacy laws. Like they may understand, but they may not understand the intricacies of how these businesses do business. So I think whether or not the district attorney is actually, the attorney general is actually qualified to do this to begin with is a valid question.
Or have time? Do
Yes.
they have the resources to actually implement this?
right.
That's
I
the question
understand.
I have.
I understand that. I think that it's a risk that these seats are going to be bought
Right.
Is there a history of
or even
seats?
manipulated to get into.
Well, that's the question.
It
Is there
creates
a
the opportunity
history?
for such.
Well, but is there a history of these boards generally being bought? You know
I
what
don't
I'm saying?
know.
Because
I don't know
I'm
about
sure
that.
they already have boards and things.
So here's the distinction. The attorney general is elected.
Okay.
This group gets selected by the governor.
It's the governor, yes.
So you're essentially able to skip over what is the checks and balances. Because that was a big issue that Republicans had with, and Republicans did it too, so it's not, but this is a big stink that they have raised, is like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau essentially gets to supersede
the checks and balances of government and the executive branch. So the executive branch gets to designate who enforces consumer.
But that's the implementation.
Yeah.
I mean, just by
That's the
definition, the executive executes. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
the legislature, we elect people to make the policies, and then the executive is supposed to execute. So in
Right.
that sense,
In that sense, if you were to get to that route, but we elected the attorney general, we chose that.
Yes.
Now it's the governor who gets to choose who does this. But let me give you the specific details it says here about what that is going to entail. The CPPA would be governed by a 5-member board with the chair appointed by the governor. The remaining, so the chair is appointed by the governor.
Yeah.
The remaining 4 members would be appointed by the governor, attorney general, Senate Rules Committee, and Speaker of the Assembly. So it looks like they do add a sort of democratic process to it. Board members would be required to have qualifications, expertise, and experience in privacy and technology. So the Proposition 24 would require the legislator to appropriate $10 million to the CPPA during each fiscal year.
What does required experience look like? Because I'm going to give you an example of an interpretation of this.
Okay.
You are lingual. You
Yeah.
can speak English.
Uh-huh.
You can speak some Spanish.
Sure.
You have a percentage
Mhm.
that you can speak, right? So you have a capability to be able to speak. Now, are you Russian? Can you speak Russian language?
No, señor.
But do you know any Russian at all? Vodka.
Bueno,
Vodka.
Vodka.
Un poco.
You have a percentage of linguistics. You
Sí.
have some
Bullshit.
some experience in it.
Sí, vodka.
So what is the measurement that they're using to be able to quantify what you can actually say is valid experience with
But
this?
can you say the same thing about the attorney general and the people who work there, in the
Right,
sense
right.
that their mandate is so broad, because they're dealing with a lot of stuff. How deep is their knowledge?
That's what I want to know. I want to know what does that depth look like for them.
Whereas here, if there's specified that they need to have understanding of technology, you mentioned like a few things.
Yeah, qualifications, expertise, and experience in privacy and technology. So I'm
a Facebook user.
Yeah.
I know how to log into Facebook, and
No,
I know that there's some private.
it.
You know?
Yeah, I'm currently the VP of Google. Let me be part of your board.
No,
Yeah.
I assume that they would want like legal knowledge,
Yes.
if you regulatory knowledge, because
So,
if you
yeah.
don't, then
This makes me feel a little better about this specific provision, is that it's appointed by the governor, attorney general, Senate Rules Committee, and Speaker of the Assembly. So there is a
oversight,
mixed
yeah.
oversight. There's not just the governor, which I was a little concerned about at first.
I'm going to go back to another example. There was a board that approved confirmation of Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. who
Oh
had
gosh, please.
zero experience and
Rex
expertise,
Tillerson overseeing what
and
is that?
she got
know.
nominated
By whom? By the executive,
by the executive.
and it was confirmed
And that's what
Yep.
this is happening. This is
confirmed by Congress.
this is the exact same situation, just on a state level.
You're creating the opportunity to
the
do so.
governor
Except-
executes.
It
and is
says
approved.
there. It says there that you need to have qualification. If Betsy DeVos was asked for qualification, she had none whatsoever.
She was asked. Elizabeth Warren asked her.
Yeah.
But there was no chance. Just like, for example, this current justice. There's no chance that they're not gonna appoint her. She's been appointed no matter the questions
It
that
doesn't
are
matter.
asked.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
doesn't matter.
because
They have a Republican-controlled Senate.
exactly.
And
So
that's my point I'm trying to make, is this is going to be somebody who wants this position, who has interests for technology and being able to sell your information.
Potentially. Whether it's not this administration
Yeah.
of California, it could be the next
no, but the
administration.
question: why would you feel better if it was a situation where you have a divided government, in the sense that the Speaker of the Assembly is not from the same party as the party of the governor? In that case, you have divided government. Would you feel better about the process?
I would, and I'm just thinking now about this too. I mean, it's either the Attorney General, who can easily be bought, or it's the governor, who can also easily be bought.
Well,
So it really makes no difference if it's coming from Mark or Steve.
let's back up just one step. the federal government is looking to implement their own data privacy laws, and they are everyone's looking to California to have the model for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're aware, but in Europe, I think it's called the GDPR.
Yeah, it's like the something law. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Europe passed a set of privacy laws
Yes.
that have affected all businesses, I think within the last couple of years.
It's been a few years, yes.
Right. So the United States is looking to do this themselves. So one of the questions is whether or not we should be waiting for the federal government,
No.
or should California continue to push the boundaries of the framework?
I think
Now-
California should continue because the federal government is going to take forever to do
Forever.
this. They
So-
take forever. And California has always been a pioneer of many different things.
Oh, I have some corrections to make about the violation. It's $2,500 for each violation, and then it's $7,500 for anyone
Okay.
involving a person under the
A
age of
minor?
16, and then up to $750 per consumer data breach incident or actual damages, whichever is
Wow,
greater.
which, that's a lot of money. You know how many data breaches we have?
Right.
Like all that credit card.
So they're eliminating 30 days notice.
Okay.
Once
So
you
more
violate it,
strict.
you're done. You're
So
donezo.
It's basically more strict.
Okay.
And it tilts, I think, towards the consumer rather than towards the Googles and Facebooks and
Yeah. So let's look at some of the comparisons between CCPA and Prop 24. One of the major changes is that businesses that control the purchase, sell, or share the personal information of 100,000 or more consumers or households each year. Prior, the CCPA was whether or not that you purchase, sell, or share. So notice the distinction between control the purchase, sell, or share versus just purchasing, sell, or share.
What does that mean?
Right? The control. So they don't want someone who's a broker for data information because you are controlling the process, but you're not actually doing it yourself. Well, we don't collect any information. Yeah, but the service that you provide helps control the flow of data information.
Sneaky.
Right. So it's just clarifying language. That's what the Prop 24, in my view, when I read this through, it looked like Prop 24 didn't really do much to change the law. It only clarified and expanded existing law.
Okay.
So one of the criticisms
Cleans up a 2018 law.
Right. So one of the criticisms is that it's not doing enough to expand it. It's just clarifying stuff. So why are we putting this up to voters if you're not actually doing something more impactful? But I want to get to that later. The other thing is that they can, in CCPA, it was 50,000 or more. So they now increased it to 100,000. So the smaller guys are not going to be hit as much, but 100,000 seems pretty easy to get to if you have a somewhat decent business.
It's actually really easy to get to. Looking at
That's what I
how
would
to
think.
promote on social media, $3 a day can get you 680 peaks.
That's crazy.
So 100,000 doesn't take much if you got a $500 pocketbook.
Exactly. Yep.
So here's a couple other exemptions. Under the CCPA of 2018 and Proposition 24, businesses would be exempt from requirements when complying with federal, state, or local laws and subpoenas. Prop 24 would allow police and sheriff's departments with an active investigation to direct businesses to not delete personal information for 90 to 180 days in order to give the investigation time to obtain a court-issued warrant subpoena.
I'm okay
order.
with that.
Right. So it
If you're guilty, if you're under investigation of embezzlement or something like that, yeah, by all means.
And they also create an exemption if there's like a serious issue, like you might murder someone, and it's like
Please
we
don't.
can, yeah, please don't.
Why? It might be somebody good.
What if it was Trump?
Oh,
You
don't
don't
say
talk
that. We're
like
being
that. You
watched.
don't talk
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can't
Our
talk like
information's being sold right now as
Oh,
we speak.
dang. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about federal stuff later. But so there are these changes to it, but the big criticisms have been that you made a good point about this, Scott. You said, "Oh, you want to opt out? I'm going to change your service." So the CCPA allows that to happen, and it's supposed to be in conjunction with the amount of money lost because you have not opted into my service. So one of the things, and by the way, the people who are mostly opposing this are libertarians.
Of course.
So it says here that the opposition is the Green Party of California, Libertarian Party of California, and the Republican Party of California.
Because it's actually leaning towards the consumer, not towards businesses.
Well,
It's leaning towards hands off.
it's leaning towards hands off, right? They're looking at this as regulation that they don't want to see more of.
Yeah.
Organizations that are against this are the ACLU of California, Northern California, and Southern California.
No, I mean that the proposition actually provides more protection to the consumer.
Right, which is more regulation,
More
more
regulation.
compliance, which libertarians are usually
And GOP,
against.
they don't want, so that's why. Yeah, they're not going to
So-
support that.
So this bill, one of the issues that they have seen with it is that, let me give you this. I just want to read it verbatim because I think it's articulated in a way that's very situated in an ideology that I don't have. No one reads the 1,000 words of legal fine print that you have to accept before you can use an app or visit a website. This is by Richard Hobler, president of the Consumer Federation of California. The fine print is where you sacrifice your privacy. The same is true of Prop 24. Its 52 pages are full of privacy reductions and giveaways to Facebook, social media platforms, and big tech companies that misuse our personal information. Now, yeah.
By voting for Prop 24, you agree to sell all of your rights.
I know that. This is what I'm like. What? Wait, how many thousand pages you needed to just say?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And
Gosh.
I looked at some of the other propositions. Some are short and sweet. Others are normally like 50-something pages. So I think that just to call it out on the fact that it's, I don't think it's enough to dismiss a proposition just because it's long and wordy and complicated. But we've also talked about how the rhetoric you can't isolate the rhetoric from the bill itself because it shows a bad intention if you're using,
Yeah, so the 52 pages, actually reading it, does
Terrible.
this
No,
have, is this
it's not
legal
readable.
speak?
It's legal speak, dude.
Okay, so with that legal speak, though, I guess you need to find out, does this actually close gaps? Does this open up new possibilities as opposed to the rhetoric of pulling at your heartstrings?
If you would like, here's some of the legal speak. So we have the paragraph structures are like A, 1, 2, 3, 1A, 3B. It's just
Article
like
5.
Article 5. If the business collects sensitive personal information, the categories of sensitive personal information to be collected and the purposes for which the categories of sensitive personal information are collected or used, and whether such information is sold or shared. That's one sentence. There's 52 pages. A business shall not collect additional categories of sensitive personal information or use sensitive personal information collected for additional purposes that are incompatible with the disclosure purpose for which the sensitive personal information. Take a shot every time I say sensitive personal information.
Gosh.
So, yes, there's a lot of legal jargon in here. Now, one of the other claims is that one of the issues with this is what you talked about. If people are allowed to opt out, they're giving permission to these businesses to change the types of services that they provide. So if you opt out of your loyalty card or your subscription to, I don't know, some journal, maybe they don't give you that extra little freebie.
You're not going to be on my email distribution. I'm not giving you 10% off.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly right.
If you're not going to open up my email that I distribute to you, I'm not going to give you 5% off.
Right. So here it says, Carmen Balber, Executive Director of Consumer Watchdog. Under Prop 24, a consumer can limit the use of their sensitive information to stop Uber from profiling them based on race. Oh, these are the arguments for. Sorry. But let me read it anyway. Based on race, stop Spotify from utilizing their precise geolocation and prevent Facebook from using their sexual orientation, health status, or religion in its algorithms.
This is a good point.
Yes.
This is a really good point.
In addition, Californians won't have to worry about the legislator repealing key privacy acts. We'll have stronger rights to personally enforce privacy laws, and we'll have the protection of a well-staffed and funded European-style privacy commission to protect their rights.
I'm for not having my demographics used for sleazy purposes.
Which I
That's
find
right.
strange that libertarians are not, because this seems like you get more personal freedom back, but you're regulating business. And I find that interesting that libertarians would be
And that's
more
what they
against,
prefer. That they
more
are
for
Well,
the business than
more for
the
business than for your own.
individual
I mean,
rights.
by
I think-
California actually limiting how they can sell information, these people, they're giving me my freedom.
Yeah.
That's where the libertarians should be with the film, because you're giving individuals freedom.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're giving
that's
it
what I
back.
think.
But,
I would suspect that libertarians aren't paying attention to this that much.
So
I think they're probably looking at it at a face value and saying, "Oh, regulations? No."
no.
It's it's a knee jerk reaction.
Yeah.
Regulations, forget it. It's like, wait, but
Yeah.
you are for personal liberty.
So I think another argument against this was we just passed this in 2018. Businesses are now figuring out how to comply. Why throw a new law for voters
It's
to
not
vote
new,
on?
It's just expansion.
That's
It's
just one
just
of the
more
arguments.
implementation. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I'm just kind of curious as again why libertarians are against this. I
Me
think
too.
that it's I think that if we get a libertarian who's listening, they should put some comments on our page or give us a ring.
That would be great.
And I also find that when they're talking about this, oh well, this new law would allow businesses to do that. If you don't opt in, then I'm gonna not give you a discount. Well, that already exists in the CCPA. The CCPA can do that, but this just clarifies the language. So here it doesn't specifically, in the CCPA, it doesn't specifically say businesses can do that. It's implied.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is, according to the language on this bill, it's giving the authority to the businesses. Hey, this is a practice that you can do. So before it's not directly given, now it's being directly given. It's like a concession to these companies. The other opposition to this is that why are we going for more opt-out when we should be going towards an opt-in system? Meaning, I'm the business, I ask you, do you want to opt in? And then you say no. What they're arguing is when the opt-out system, you as the consumer have to go in
It's
after
more
the
work.
fact.
Yeah.
Right. So they're saying we reject this because you're not going to the opt-in method. But I still don't think the opt-in method is off the table later down the road.
It's just a small, I think it's only one piece. But I
one piece.
understand
Yeah, I
that
think it's only
because
one
it
piece.
takes effort.
Yeah.
But do you just say no to the whole thing
I
because
think
of
you
that?
should say no. Well, I think in the ideal world, I don't want any advertisement popping up because I don't want I don't want my information tracked and used against me or for me, as they might put it. I want it all to be, if I opt in, then yes, they can. But I don't think that that's right either, because I don't think that we have full awareness of how they're using that information.
Right. Right now, basically, you don't say anything, and it's consent.
Can I use your information to track your gender, race, and sexual orientation?
Yeah.
No, fuck off.
Because I know.
Can I use your information because you like this certain type of coffee? Maybe we can recommend more coffee?
Yeah.
Maybe. I might want to diversify.
Yeah. A coffee shop using your information is a lot different than an insurance provider. And people have been, I've been talking to some people about this. Insurance is starting to trend towards using those health Fitbits.
Yeah.
And that the more exercise things that you do, the less your premium is. So your insurance can go down or up.
Sanan, we saw that you rode your bike 20 miles this weekend.
I did 24.
Hey, that's great. We're going to give you a discount because you rode your bike and you're more healthy than most people. But you rode it on the road, so we're going to dock you because you could get hit by a car and be injured.
That's right. That's dangerous.
The
Then that means
scarier-
more money for
The
us.
scarier implication, Scott, beyond that is we also noticed that you're African American.
Yeah.
You're 35 years old and you weigh 190 pounds where the average weight should be 180.
Yeah.
And we have deemed that African Americans at this age are predisposed towards
Yes.
X, Y, and Z. So your prices are going to be jacked up, avoiding the very real fact
You know what?
that systemic problems in our society have helped fuel a unhealthy African American population. Right? We're talking about COVID hitting
Oh, yeah,
African Americans
the
or
Like
minorities,
Salvini, yeah.
Hispanics, right? But now you're using these algorithms that say, "Oh, we're just looking at data."
It's just
Mhm.
But it's
basically
like,
when you are,
Dang, yeah.
you know, like the traffic, how the police they used to profile. It's a profiling.
It's
It's
a profiling,
AI.
Oh, 100% it is.
It's AI.
I don't want to be
profiling.
profiled. I don't want to be profiled.
But that's what
100%.
they do. It's a profile. I mean, they develop a profile for you as a shopper. They develop a profile for you. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
it's
it is.
profiling to what end?
Exactly.
And the ends
Their
are limitless
To their profit, not yours.
to their profit.
So they
And
do
that could
have
look in a lot of different ways.
they do have exemptions to the types of businesses that can use this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and some of them already existed under the CCPA, but some of the exemptions include things like vehicle information or vehicle ownership information for a vehicle dealer that is only collecting it in order to provide vehicle
The
repairs.
service.
Oh,
So
that's
there's-
it.
God, that's bullshit because
Yeah.
so many ads come up on mine for,
They do.
oh, you want to buy a new minivan? No, I don't want to buy a new minivan. Shit.
It's saying here they're shared between vehicle dealers and manufacturers for the purpose of vehicle repairs. For the purpose of
Bullshit.
vehicle repairs.
I
They
just
do.
drove across the states,
Yeah.
and now I have dealerships that pop up on my feed for no reason other than the fact that I drove across the state they reside in.
And I don't think with this that would be allowed if you said, don't collect my personal information about my habits. They could still send you advertisements. That's not illegal. They just can't collect information about you. Like, this guy likes trucks. This guy wants a lift. Let's throw him ads about
Personal
certain
information.
modifications that he can do
Yeah.
to his truck.
Personal information, I was saying even satellite tracking. I was using the app in Utah. Why do I have a dealership that's popping up in Utah?
Yeah,
Looking
that's
up at your
crazy.
location, right? So a
Exactly.
vehicle
That's
dealership-
personal information to
But
me.
that's as
Yeah.
soon as you have your phone,
Yeah.
you
I
say-
hate that.
they're doing that.
A vehicle dealer could not be looking at your location as a personal information.
But Apple tracking my
They do it.
location can sell my information to a dealer.
Sure.
I'm not grabbing at straws here. This is real stuff.
No,
No,
it is
well,
true.
This is an exemption for how information can be used. If this goes into place, they're saying that you cannot buy this type of stuff from
No.
people if you opt out of the services. You
So
can't.
a vote yes for this limits that, doesn't allow that.
It expands the current limitations in place. Another example of an exemption is personal information collected by a business that needs it to administer employee benefits. It's like, well, yeah. Okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah,
need
you
to
better
employee
do the employee benefits, right?
There's also a consumer's credit standing, reputation, and worthiness for the purpose of consumer reports, which we kind of have approved.
We have that, yes.
So the
I'm
ballot's in
for
front
more
of you.
protection.
Yeah. Ballot's in front of you. What do you vote?
More protection, yes.
Yes.
More protection. I vote yes.
I will vote yes on this. I'm curious to see what this board is because I think that board is one of the key, like, what does this mean? What is this board going to entail?
Yeah, well, I'm hopeful that because they're going to have multiple stakeholders selecting these members,
why.
so that gives me there's credibility there. If some sense of credibility. So
Well, great. So we're
I
all
wish I could back up, or I wish I could be supportive of that. I can't. I think that it
Yeah.
creates more opportunity for corruption.
there's always, that's why this, yeah.
But
So-
I don't like that either. I really do think of a lot of actions as what are you creating more opportunities for? And in the last bill, I was
Yeah.
thinking you're creating more opportunities for landlord tenant
Or-
tension.
Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah, and in this case, I
conflicts.
do see it as yes, you're creating more opportunities to enforce because that's one of their arguments is that
Yeah, you can
this is just a
enforce.
piece of paper if you can't enforce
But
it.
then what can you do? Yeah, I mean, if you don't create this board, then you have to make a change within the Justice Department so that they can have the people to
Right.
go after this. But the argument is that, well, they're so busy doing this and they're no
Right.
specialists. Well, then
Right.
hire specialists.
Right.
I
Did
mean,
you know
that's the only
Mexico
option.
has the toughest drug laws in all
Yeah, but
countries?
look at.
Right, I'm
yeah,
just kidding. They don't have the toughest drug
Yeah,
laws, but
yeah, right.
but you can see the point, the argument, right? They have tough drug laws.
Yeah.
Well, those don't mean anything if they're not being enforced.
But it's worked in Europe. It'll be hopefully it will
Yeah.
work here.
We need this stuff.
Well, we are just
we are
too-
so far behind, and I
Right.
think I think that these organizations that have built their businesses off ripping your data they've been squeezing the juice
Oh,
for a
yes.
long time, and it's like you have to have thought that this is coming. People are going to be like, this is not okay. You've
Yeah.
created an entire new commodity that is literally our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's our behavior.
Oh,
You
yes,
know, like
it's
that's
all about that.
we have regulations as to how much you can advertise or what kind of things you can advertise to children,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a vulnerable population. Here, we're vulnerable because everything we do is tied to our devices,
Yeah.
and this is just going to continue. We need to start getting ahead
Yeah,
of this
this
stuff.
is actually many years behind. You know, we are many years behind.
I'd say that I've noticed in the last, like, I'd say 2 to 3 years with the accessibility to buy things like Facebook Marketplace now
Yeah.
available.
Yes.
These apps like, what's the one? I can't think of it
Which is
now.
crazy how many markets Facebook does. Like Facebook Markets
Yeah.
is
I even saw stuff in
Offer Up.
Pennsylvania. You can
Jeez, that's what I was thinking.
What
Like
is it called?
apps
Offer
like
Up.
these, Offer
Yeah.
Up, where you can go and you can buy products and items from people. But in Offer Up and in Facebook Marketplace, they also have new ads for new products from stores.
No way.
So like you can see,
didn't
I want to
know
buy a
that.
new snowboard, or I want to buy a used snowboard.
Yeah.
But wait, this
Oh,
group,
that's
this
terrible
store,
for the people who are
Yeah.
advertising in there.
Yeah,
I could buy a new
For me
one
as an
for $50
individual,
more.
They're
Yeah.
undercutting. You know, they're undercutting the people who built them.
they're not undercutting, they're creating more competition.
They're creating competition, but I'm saying though they created that so that community, you know, you could sell in your community stuff, and now they're using that to get dollars.
Oh yeah.
To cut your off because now
Yeah.
you know that
That's
people
funny.
are gonna say, oh no, I'd rather buy new. It's like, yeah, but you're gonna say 40. Yeah, but it's new.
Yeah.
And then my
Oh, it's
stuff-
only $40 more?
exactly.
Yep.
I mean
Yeah.
that's sleazy.
That's
It is.
lazy.
That is horrible. That's pretty
Sleazy.
bad.
Yeah, it reminds me of this time I was
Wow.
trying to get out of my lease, talking about renter tenant, or landlord tenant issues. Trying to get out of my lease 1 month early because my friends were going to be having this room open. I wanted to join in, but they can't go without a month's rent, right? And I can't pay double month's rent. We're all students, so I'm trying to get out of this lease early. I put the sublease out. They approved it. And I advertised it on Craigslist. Well, people started calling and being like, "Hey, do you have any any rent apartments that are going to be open September?" And that's when I was leaving. And they're like, "No," because technically,
They wanted a longer run.
because
and
technically,
you're still there.
yeah, it's the next month.
Oh, but you see, in New York, they have to make it. They have to make the good
Effort.
faith effort
Yes,
to rent it.
this was Florida.
Oh,
When I found out, because then someone emailed me. They're like, "Hey, I called this place. It looked like this. I saw your ad, so I called."
Oh my!
So they
gosh.
said this wasn't available, and I was like, I was livid because I'm a broke student. I'm
Yeah,
like, dude,
wow.
will get continuing rent. Oh, but we could have squeezed one more out of you.
Sure.
Yep.
1 month,
They
one
don't want to deal
month.
with it. Yes.
They didn't want to deal with it. So it's similar to that, where it's like you have all these resources, and
Yes.
now you're undercutting the very people who it's like you just help them
Exactly.
out, man. Like some of these places
They're
don't.
not there. They're not
Yeah,
there to help you out. They're there to make money. That's how Zuckerberg has, and he's there to steal your info. He takes the info, and then, you want to put stuff on my platform? Yeah, let me advertise.
Yeah, he
You know,
gives
that guy-
zero
so
shits about.
I
I think he
Community.
used to, but I think the
He's
company
so
was filled with too many dirtbags that took advantage of him, and now he's like, "Well, I don't know what to do. I guess I'm just fucked. I'm gonna roll with the devil here."
You think
He basically chose
You don't think
the
he's
devil.
the
I
devil?
remember when Facebook
Yeah.
came out. I was in Facebook in 2006,
It
and I remember
was-
it was only if you had a college email.
Yes.
There was nothing that was
Oh,
involved
really?
that was
Was
BS.
it like it
Yeah,
was?
you can only you
Yeah.
have to be
Wasn't
in
it like
college.
My
They were-
Life, and then it
Yeah.
went
No, that's
Oh, that was
MySpace.
MySpace.
MySpace?
But Facebook was
Okay.
great back then because, like
Really?
I said, it was only college kid emails that could have it. So like you didn't have advertisements that were popping up all the time. You
But
didn't
they
have
didn't make
advertisements at all.
money.
My mom didn't know that I had Facebook. Like this is
Yeah.
great. I can post whatever I want to on here without any scolding.
Oh,
hilarious.
That is
But-
funny. I didn't know.
Yeah. So what happened? And I'm only speculating, but what I think happened is Zuckerberg had to get some protection from like you big groups
Like
coming after him.
AR-15 From
no,
tyrannical.
like I'm
Oh.
from tyrannical government, Second Amendment. No, I think he had to have some protection from people coming after him with lawsuits, and he got in bed with the wrong people who then were like, "Oh,
That's a good theory.
We could go a little bit further for our own
hypothesis?
interests. You could make some money off of this, Mark. Oh yeah, I like
Oh
money.
yeah, let's make
I
money.
like money.
I mean, he's a college dropout, right?
Yeah.
He's not that bright. I mean,
No, come
he's
on.
a genius
Yeah.
for this, but college dropout at the time, he probably didn't have any of the foresight to do anything like this.
I would challenge that last bit right there. I think he's.
You
very
think he
smart.
foresaw everything that was coming to
Oh,
Facebook?
with Facebook? I think.
No,
on
I don't think he had that kind of vision.
Absolutely
You know?
not.
No,
There's
no way.
no way.
There's no way he
No.
thought I'm gonna be the next
It's
MySpace.
just been evolving. It's been evolving every time, and
maybe
growing.
it
No,
is.
there's
so-
no way that he had the vision that I am going to put advertisements on a marketplace on my
Exactly.
social
And
media.
That-
in
that
15
was it.
years, in 15 years, I'm gonna be worth
Yeah.
40 billion.
I'm gonna buy
whatever
an island.
Yeah, there's no way. So yeah, I think we're all a yes
the same
for
page,
this,
yes,
and
exactly.
I think one of the worst arguments is don't put another bill that just got added in 20. That's such a weak argument. It's like as if you're essentially saying that the voters can't handle voting on something.
On the other hand, there was that rent one.
Yeah, that
and
was
then
in 2018.
That was one of the one of the arguments was that why are you putting this up again?
That
when
was
it
Gavin Newsom's
defeated?
argument.
But
Yeah,
but
It was defeated
Oh,
last year, so
but-
they're putting it again.
but it was directly impacting people, ground level people, tenants, owners,
Yes.
without having the ability to opt or not or anything like that. Like this is information traced
Yeah.
by the internet.
Yes,
This isn't a financial impact.
This is
Right,
selling.
right.
Well,
It could
it's a
devastate your
financial
bank account.
impact
for those businesses.
their wallet.
Yeah, for
They
the
make
businesses.
money, not
Yeah.
us. I mean, if they pay me, like, okay, I'm gonna send you for every sale, I'll send you 2 cents. Okay, you know how much money we'll be making each of us if they
Sure.
actually pay for our information.
That was one of the arguments Andrew Yang had for the universal basic income is that we're literally not getting paid for any of this information that we're giving
For
away
free.
for free.
I didn't
And
know
I
that.
love the meme. It was back in the day, people were like, "Be careful, don't talk on the phone. The government's listening."
Be careful, don't talk on the phone. Alexa
Yeah,
is
yeah.
listening.
Alexa and
Yeah.
is actually
Yeah.
tracking you. Where are you
So-
going
oh,
to?
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like saying, "Oh, and today you're like, hey, secret government, how do you make waffles?"
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Hey, spying
No,
government.
so I have Alexa. I don't have it on. It's
I
packed
hate
up in a
that thing.
box somewhere. But I
Yeah,
do
I
have
know, I
intentions on putting it back on at some point.
Still listening. Battery.
But it's funny because I've had it on. Like I'd say something, and it's like, "Hold on, let me search the internet for you," or "Oh, we have these options for you," or something. Like you come in the house, you're like, "I think I'm gonna order Indian food." Oh, these local
That's
restaurants
so
are
annoying.
And you're
open
like,
for delivery.
"That's weird. I didn't say Alexa.
Yeah, strange.
That's
Strange.
strange."
Yes.
Well, okay, so we're all yes votes. So we all had agreements this time. That's good.
In
Did
spite of
we
our,
all have agreements?
Despite having different. This is what I
last
think.
time?
we still had different opinions,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and
I think that's what's so important about these ballot measures is that they help bridge the gap between the Republican Democrat binary argument because people can actually go into these policies rather than the people. So we're not talking about, we're talking about Donald Trump is trying to put this ballot measure and people can't see anything
yeah, I see what
but
you're
past
saying.
Donald Trump. These ballot measures, I think, are the unifying way because,
You focus on content.
you focus on
basically.
content. You're not focused on who necessarily support. I mean, if you're looking at this and you're like, well, Bernie Sanders support this, so I'm just going to go for it. That's not smart.
That's not good voting.
That's
Yeah.
not good voting.
But I would like to point out that voting locally
Mhm.
for all things that pertain to your local government is going to impact you far more than voting for one person for
I agree.
president.
And yet, 2 years from now, when we are voting again locally, I'm not getting a bunch of go vote, go vote, go vote. I'm not getting any of that stuff. You know what I mean? There's no super PACs there. It's all the
Oh, for your
midterm
local-
stuff.
yeah.
For the
Midterms, yeah.
midterms. You're not getting a bunch of
Yeah,
encouragement to
but
go vote.
Can we go back to us? Actually, voting at the national level is look, for example, Supreme Court is so important.
It is
Look, for
important.
example,
Yeah, it is.
the people they pick for the Betsy DeVos, you know, the stuff. That's having such a huge impact on education.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. Outrageous.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. And it's
Yeah.
also
That's
the
a
amount of
loss.
damage that you can do in 4 years.
Exactly.
is
You never think
tremendous.
you can do that more. Oh, yes, you can, apparently.
Yeah.
We never imagined.
So now that's an easy transition to the federal government, I have a big question for you, specifically for you, Mom.
Uh-oh.
How did we get, actually for both of you, so how do you think we got to this point where we have a Biden-Harris ticket?
What
How
do
did we
you
get
mean?
here?
Oh, we've talked about this.
Yeah, but so like
What
we
do you
got
mean?
2 people,
Yeah.
at least for me, who I don't agree with. I, through the primaries, was not having Joe Biden or Kamala
Yeah,
Harris.
but that was you.
That's me. How did we get here? Why did the Democratic Party, in your view, choose Biden and Harris?
It wasn't the Democratic Party. I mean, the people voted in the primaries for them. Biden got more votes. That's just the reality. And then Biden gets to pick. Now, Biden had a lot of, there were a lot of people loving him, and there was a desire to have a diverse, someone like, let us change this tune. We gotta change. What?
I keep on saying that when we look at these propositions, we need to chase the money. I think similarly with these candidates, we need to chase the money. I think that Biden and Kamala had the best fundraising because they are the most well-known names.
Kamala, no.
Or Kamala. Kamala was in California. She's got some money here. She's got some money here for sure.
I mean, but that's California.
She's no Bernie, but
No, Bernie got way more money than her.
again, looking at the primary for vice president,
but think
Kamala
about it.
wasn't quite the highest.
But she
Bernie got more
wasn't-
money.
She didn't need the money for the vice presidency. What she needed the money was
She didn't
when
need the
was
votes
running,
either.
was for the president.
Exactly.
But she didn't have those, so the vice president, she
That's-
didn't need the money for
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
That was
I'm
a
saying
different
that,
lobby.
I'm saying that so the VP is a different.
Yes, totally
It's different, 100% different than what Biden president nomination is. And I'm saying that we got Biden because you asked us how do we get these two. So I think first let's look at how we got Biden. I think Biden raised more money and was able to reach more constituents, and in doing so, he got the vote. So he was able to raise money with the super PAC like no other candidate, with exception of Bernie. Bernie can do it too, but it doesn't all come from the super PAC. It comes from people who really want to keep that Democratic
But who
allegiance and laws
says it
in
wasn't
place.
just super PACs? It wasn't just super PACs. You have
Correct.
people.
It wasn't just super PACs,
No,
but
no,
super
no.
PACs won.
Yes.
Keep in
Grassroots,
mind-
Bernie grassroots
Yes,
lost.
did
Keep
not
in
win.
mind that unfortunately, since they passed at one of these days, you got to do Citizens United, which is the law that changed.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
How they
That
give
is
money.
such a horrible
Without
law.
money, you can't do
Thanks,
anything.
McConnell.
But I will tell you, actually, what?
McConnell back again. That was McConnell's little baby pet.
McConnell.
You have to say that, yes, he raised money, but it wasn't just super PACs. I mean, yes, of course, you have to have super PACs. and
The
so-
big one
but
for the
don't tell
primaries
me-
is he won the black vote in, I think it was Carolina.
in the Carolina. So once he won that, he won the vote. That
Yeah,
was it.
that was it.
because then things just started happening. It's like that was.
There's
a
some
test
dominoes.
case.
There's some strategic
it just
dominoes.
happened.
That was
Yeah.
the domino for him.
That was the
he
domino.
was performing
If he
so
had
poorly.
if he had not
Yeah.
won that state, forget it.
How did he win it, though? Did he win it because black people in South Carolina truly believed in him?
No, he got
Or
an
did he win
endorsement.
it because
I think it was both. I tell you the truth. I didn't support Bernie. I don't believe in what Bernie has to say. Do I completely agree with Biden? No, but you know what?
Well,
What about Andrew Yang? What
Yeah,
about
I think he's
Elizabeth
gonna-
Warren?
Andrew is going to have a nice cabinet position, I expect.
I thought Elizabeth Warren was the powerhouse.
I did
She's
too.
very
I thought
smart,
she was
yeah.
going to win.
But
I
she
really
won.
I thought
she was gonna
Pocahontas
win.
was going to take it all the way.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to win. She
would have done good
honestly-
against.
I
She would have
honestly-
done really well
This
against
country-
Trump.
I honestly
too
don't know
biased
why she
against.
lost.
Because she's a woman. You need to understand this.
Yeah.
She's a woman, and I tell you, this country, in spite of everything, we are still hung up on
I agree.
we are sexist.
This is why Joe Jorgensen is not going to come anywhere near having 1% of the vote.
Who's Joe Jorgensen?
Exactly.
Who is that?
Independent or libertarian candidate for
Female?
presidency. Yeah, she's a female.
What's it, Joe?
Joe
Oh,
Jorgensen.
no, but Jill. Remember Jill? Jill last year,
But
she
we
messed
had
up.
Hillary
And for-
Clinton 4 years ago.
You don't understand. I will
Oh,
call
no.
the Democrats, and they will say, "I don't want a woman." These are Democrats in Pennsylvania. I was calling them.
Yeah. Oh, you volunteered, right?
Yes, I don't want a woman to be president. They're not supposed to be. I'm like, what? Do
Yep.
you have
Yeah.
daughters? Yes, and would you think that your daughter would not be capable? I mean, there were people just
Oh yeah.
older Democrats telling me,
Oh yeah.
no way.
I mean, Mom, I was in Utah during the Obama. They were leading up to
Oh, me
it,
too,
and
I
I
know.
remember one of my freshman roommates. He was a white kid from Colorado, considered himself, like I'm a good
Progressive.
guy. I'm a good guy. Yeah. And then one day
Progressive.
he storms into the dorm room. He's like huffing, like he was very white. So when he got red, he would get like red.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "There's no way I will accept an N-word for president."
Oh my gosh, you see?
I
There's
was
a
like,
racism,
what?
there is sexism.
That was
There's-
unprovoked. We're just sitting there drinking
Yeah.
beers.
Well, that
That's too bad.
exists in America. What you
Big
see?
time.
Well,
Big time.
Okay, so you asked a two-part question. I want
I
to go
did.
back to this.
Okay.
How did we get Harris as the VP nomination?
Biden-Harris ticket. How did we get a
So-
Biden-Harris ticket?
I think the reason why we have a Harris ticket is because they needed to get a black vote. When I say they, Democrats,
Mhm.
and they also needed to reach females. This shows progression. This shows that we can actually move forward with some of the social issues that we see right now. Biden couldn't have picked Bernie. Biden couldn't have picked Yang. Biden couldn't have picked Beetlejuice, which I think he should have.
Pete Beetlejuice.
Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, Peter
Beetlejuice.
Buttigieg?
Buttigieg. Yeah, I don't know how to
Pete-
say his. I like Beetlejuice.
I personally didn't
Sorry,
find
Pete.
Pete Beetlejuice all that.
I
good.
like Pete. I like Mayor Pete.
Sorry. I like
I like Mayor Pete.
I liked how he went the slogan Mayor Pete.
I like Mayor
That was,
Pete.
I
that was
love
very
Mayor
small town.
Indiana Mayor Pete.
Mayor
Yeah.
Pete. Yeah, you
That's
got it.
another
I like
big cabinet position.
Yeah. But I also like Tulsi. I like Tulsi a lot.
Oh.
Now again,
Tulsi's
though,
okay.
going back, can't have the female be the candidate for the primary. But also, Tulsi was shut down by big money department or Democratic National Committee.
Happens all the time.
So she's not one who raises money for the giant
I'm
conglomerate.
sorry, where is she from? She's
Hawaii.
That's the Hawaiian.
Yeah.
I don't like her.
I
At
loved
all.
her. I loved her.
find that her politics are just completely upside down as far as I'm concerned. She doesn't have her priorities straight, and I can't vote for her.
Oh, you.
Is it
totally
because
know.
she was smoking crack or what?
I don't know whether she was. I didn't know that.
Well, there's one thing that stuck with me. Like, she wanted to remove people from Afghanistan and Iraq, and I mean this is mind blowing just thinking about this. So 2001, 9/11 happens. We go into these countries, we invade, we steamroll through,
Yes.
we overthrow Saddam, we kill or take over all these provinces in Afghanistan and overthrow the Taliban after like 100 days of being invaded into Afghanistan as well as Iraq. Something really outrageously fast,
Yeah.
really effective. Now, of course, we're still there. We're fighting terrorists, et cetera, et
So
cetera.
cool.
But now, almost 20 years later, we have
20
people
years
who
later.
went in 2001 who have kids who are now in over there.
I know.
That blows my mind.
That is
That,
that.
blows my mind that kids
Yeah.
born after 9/11
Mhm.
are in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Who,
And to what end?
who
There's
may
no
have never
political agenda
seen
for this.
9/11.
Yeah, who doesn't even
Yeah.
see 9/11?
Plus,
But
Iraq. It wasn't Iraq.
But this is what Tulsi wanted to do. She wanted to come up with a reason why we were there, an actual point to being there, and then how to measure your success, and then also have an exit strategy out. So in any articles of war, you were supposed to have this. You were supposed to say, okay, we need to win. These are the terms that we're going to win.
Yes.
And then this is how we're going to
That's gone. That's out the window.
come out.
We're not doing
And
that.
it doesn't happen. And it's not happening right now. And she wanted
It's
to
to
have that
serve
conversation.
American interests.
Yeah, but the problem is that we didn't even serve American interests. Actually, Iraq should have never happened. That we had a reason.
Right.
There was a reason for Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The reality, the Russians were there and they were providing the
Well,
weapons, all that stuff.
regardless of why we were there and the lack of reasoning why we were there,
Russians.
there needs to be a conversation on how to leave.
Oh,
and we're not having that on a national level at all.
I think that's an important conversation. I think what you're getting at, though, is that Tulsi has a very narrow is the wrong word. She has a broad point of view on many different topics, but In this one, very passionate. Unfortunately, these candidates that go up for these huge high-level spots, like Joe Biden, have these broad, kind of like sweeping policy.
Can Biden
interests.
even talk? Can Trump even talk?
Speak?
About what?
Anything.
I
Anything
think
of
it can be.
substance?
41 years in the Congress. You better be. Okay,
He can talk.
let's separate. He has 40 years of experience.
I'm not
this
saying-
is my next question.
I'm
for
not
you two.
saying that he hasn't accomplished things. I'm saying right now, can he even have a coherent dialogue with disagreement and
I
come
think-
to a mutual
yeah.
agreement,
I
a
think
mutual
he
I
solution?
think
can.
he could.
I think
I think he could actually do it.
Absolutely, I think he could.
I don't know that.
He's old school, and old school
I
people.
just don't know if he has
do
the
that.
capacity to do so
I
right now
think
at
he
his
does.
age and
So-
with the
But
amount
he's not that old.
of...
I mean, we have my
Mom,
grandma
he's-
can have a conversation with you at 93.
She
Did you
she
see-
can.
What's Attenborough?
And she will punch you in the face if you diss her.
Attenborough. Attenborough is the one from the Nature
David
show.
Attenborough?
David Attenborough. He's, 93?
He's old.
You should have seen that man and the clarity of mind and everything. Oh, yes.
Well, hold
I
on.
wouldn't say age.
So here's my question for you, because
Yes.
that's actually I wrote 3 questions for me to ask. What do you think of the age of the candidates? So in the debate that they had,
Mhm.
Trump and Biden, the moderator asked them both if they had a plan of what to happen to transition the government should an unfortunate, he didn't say you die, he was very PC
Yeah.
about death, but essentially, Trump, do you
Articles
have a
of-
plan?
25th Amendment.
But there's no plan. You don't need to have a plan. It's basically the VP. That's it.
Right, but you also need to be like, okay, these are the interests, this was going to happen. So he asked that to Trump and Biden. They both ignored the question.
I don't
What do
remember
you
that.
think?
What I
remember
remember
it.
them asking it from the VP candidates, and they both evaded the question. They didn't answer.
They both evaded it too, but so did Joe. No, I'm mistaken. I think it was. You're correct. It was the VPs
The
that they asked,
VPs,
not the presidents. They both evaded the question.
And I can see, but think about it, for example, I can see that in the sense that if I'm working, I have my boss, right? My boss, like the dean.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so, I can't be banking on him being old so that I can grab power. You know what I'm saying? There is a certain kind of courtesy or decorum that you maintain, and you don't talk about that stuff.
Okay, fair.
I thought that was not,
Are
it
you
didn't make sense to ask
concerned
that question.
about the age of those presidents, both Donald Trump
No.
and Biden?
Yes.
Why
I'm
are you
not.
not?
I'm not concerned because, I am concerned if Donald Trump is president and Pence becomes president. I am very
Terrifying.
concerned about that.
I'm concerned for a lot of reasons.
I think
I'm
he'd be
concerned that generation, 78 years old, 73 years old, just is not in touch with things that are modern
That's
right now in our
excellent
society.
point.
They are old school, as you mentioned. And that
Abuela
old school,
Maria is
that old
not in
school
touch.
is not thriving in today's society. It's not doing us justice in today's society, which is why I want term limits in all of
Yes,
offices.
I
don't
agree.
want to see somebody who's got geriatric, dementia and all these other issues that
Sure.
are associated with aging
Senile.
being in office, making decisions, especially at a high office world global level.
Yeah,
Now-
no, I agree with you on the term limits thing.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think there's no reason why these people are there for life. And it worse yet, people keep voting for them, voting them in because the
So
name
terrible.
recognition.
McConnell.
It's
That's-
incumbent. Yeah, the incumbent always wins.
Well,
not
it's
Not
like
always
that.
win.
Well,
Not
it's
always,
a
but
lot of
often,
times.
more
Hatch got
often.
unseated,
than-
yeah.
But
stuff like that.
for example, I'm not concerned because, for example, if Biden gets elected and then he pass, then Kamala will be there, and she's our generation. I mean, no, you're younger, but
She's your
represents. She represents much more than anybody, than either of the three of them.
So I think this is where you and I had some severe divisions, because
Yes.
I could get behind Joe Biden, even though I think that he was not the best candidate in the primaries. I am very concerned of a Kamala Harris administration. Kamala.
I'm concerned about the intentions right now, trying to push through some
Kamala.
changes to the 25th Amendment, led by the Democrats. To me, this seems kind of
What
like
changes?
What changes?
well, I guess I don't want to get into it yet because I'm not researched well enough in this yet.
All right.
But
Well,
Pelosi's trying to push forward some amendment to the 25th Amendment or some adjustments to the 25th Amendment. And it's not because of Trump, quote unquote. So I think.
is it the justices? How many justices they can
No.
have? What's the
25th Amendment is to be able to remove the president for health, sickness, things
In
like
case
that.
of removal of the president from office or his death of president, the vice president shall become president.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Right.
But what
But
are the
I-
changes?
I
that
think-
they're
But I
trying?
think it's the branch that's able to put the vice president in power, like how that transition is supposed to go.
I mean, the transition is spelled out. I mean, now if the vice president has some issues, the vice president said,
Yeah.
then it is the speaker of the house.
But how are those issues defined, and who can qualify those definitions? And
No,
I think
but I
that's
mean,
that's what Pelosi's trying to.
In the
trying to
amendment, it
change.
says the VP, but then it specifies. It's just it depends on many conditions,
So if the VP is able to do so, and the agenda is that Harris wants the presidency,
No,
who's
yeah.
going to push this?
No, but there's nothing to push because in the amendment it tells you that it is the VP who becomes president. There's just nothing more to it.
I think on this front, Mom, you have some blind faith on this, and then Scott is getting into conspiracy. So there's no way that you can rectify those two viewpoints.
I think.
But I want to say this about the Harris administration, and I am terrified of a Kamala Harris administration because I've told Scott this before. I am fundamentally against any candidate who looks to expand criminal justice. I've been through the criminal justice system. I've suffered the consequences of being at the wrong end of the criminal justice system, and I've seen how you really need to create opportunities for people to engage society in positive ways, not create opportunities to punish people. That's just that is fundamentally my view, and Kamala is always looking to expand criminal justice.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, there are different
She
ways
has done
of
that in her policies.
expansion, how we think, and I
She's
think
expanded it in San Francisco. She's expanded it in California. She's put in policies that have expanded criminal justice.
I
and
really
she's
think
tried
we
to
need
use
reform.
and I think we need reform too, but she's tried to use criminal justice to address social problems. And I think that is the wrong end to be poking. You're poking a problem, but you're using a sword. You need to use something a little less severe. But here's what got me. So, Mom, we've talked about, I didn't vote in 2016. So
Can you believe that?
Did you vote in 2016?
He didn't exercise his right.
Did you vote in 2016, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah,
I voted for Gary Johnson.
That was the libertarian, no?
Yep.
So I saw this
Arizona, right? He was from Arizona.
I saw
New
this
Mexico.
as a protest.
New Mexico.
I viewed my actions as a protest, not as a...
That's how you interpret.
That's
Other
how I
people
interpret.
say that you threw away your vote.
I also remember thinking, well, look, I was so disgusted by the fact that Donald Trump was arising, but also disgusted by who Hillary Clinton was and why we thought, again, disappointed with the Democratic Party, another term where they're selecting, in my view, a poor candidate.
Where'd you live in 2016?
I lived in Florida, but I was registered in California. So I was in Florida at 2016.
But you were registered in California?
Still, I couldn't register in Florida.
Okay.
Because
They
he was
don't-
a college
So
student.
college
if you
student.
were to vote, your vote would have counted in California, been counted in California.
Yeah.
Your vote didn't matter.
Yeah, because she won California anyway, but still.
Yeah, it
That's
didn't
why they
matter.
don't. That's why they don't rally
But
here.
still to have the
So
vote.
I just thought that this was and I thought this, if Trump were to be elected, this is what I thought back in 2016. If Trump is elected, he is not the president we need, but he's the president we deserve if we get to a point where we are willing to make this choice.
Yeah, that's it.
Now I can't not vote, and one of the huge reasons why was watching him be unable to condemn white supremacy.
Yes. What's worse?
What do you mean? What's worse?
Well, that's pretty bad.
It was awful.
And then, but I mean, now think about that. Do you think that if Hillary Clinton had been president, first of all, I don't believe that we should be having dynasties in government.
I agree.
I
Oligarchies?
totally, that
agree.
stuff I'm just totally
The
disagree
Clinton
with.
and Bush families.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you think that would, it's you having a president to not disavow those kind of things?
No, I don't think she.
Never.
I don't think she would have done that.
Never.
I still wouldn't have taken back my vote though.
That's fine.
I would
but
not. I
am
would
just
not change.
saying,
I would not change not voting
I
back in
am just
2016.
saying that, you know what, yes, it's true. This is what we got, but
I look at voting with a little bit different of a lens, and the omission of voting as well as voting for a third party member. I voted Libertarian 2016 here in California. I'm proud of the fact that I voted for Gary Johnson because I think that he was the only true adult that was actually on the podium. I think that he had some profound thoughts and ideas that he could have brought bipartisan agreement to. He had some blunders. Aleppo was a blunder. But at the end of the day, I think that he was the more sound and just person. So I stand by my vote for him. Now, I was criticized for voting for Johnson because I threw away my vote because we were faced with Hillary.
I don't
or
believe
Trump.
that.
I don't feel like I threw away my vote because I feel strongly that we need to have a third voice. No matter what that voice is, we need to have a third voice in the debates. And the only way that you can achieve that is if you get X number of percent in the primaries.
To Kanye West.
So
Yeah.
that's either 12% or 15%. I think it varies now for some reason. I think it varies.
I thought it was 2%. I don't know. It needs to be some percentage.
Really
but
don't
okay.
know,
Yeah.
but there's a minimum bar
Yes.
to be able
Yeah.
to be
To be able
allowed
to
in
make
the
it,
presidential
yes,
debates.
Yes.
So I voted for Gary Johnson to be able to be in the debates for the primary, and now I am not going to vote for the Libertarians, Joe Jorgensen. Now I am going to vote against Trump, and it is strictly against Trump because I am 150% behind certain ideals like conservation is one of my big non-negotiables.
Which you
things
like
that.
to enjoy,
Yeah,
right?
I love the outdoors.
The fact that he has more nepotism and the fact that he didn't drain the swamp, he actually put worse people in. He put
owns
lobbyists.
it now. He owns it.
Yeah, he put
I
lobbyists.
put a resort on the swamp, baby.
Yeah.
Lobbyists of oil and gas
Yeah, I know, it's
in
terrible.
conservation offices. Lobbyists for, what was it? I can't even think of it now. Well, military contracting. Mark Esper.
Yeah.
You know, like these are not
Horrible
the
things.
right
Betsy
people.
DeVos.
Betsy DeVos. These are not the right people, and he has done more damage in the last 4 years
4 years.
than I think that
We
you know,
could.
sitting stagnant, if you want to call Biden sitting stagnant,
Yeah.
has done in 41 years.
And I'm in the same boat in the sense that I recognize that America has suffered its punishment. It does. In my view, it still deserved Donald Trump for 4 years for being a brat. But now we have to move on.
Well, another thing too, though, I don't think that not voting is a appropriate form of protest, because when it comes down to it, you have people who are going to vote, they're going to win the electoral, and it's going to go to the president and the party that wins the electoral, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's no statistic. There's few groups that are out there looking at these statistics that you didn't vote or that you voted for a third party.
Yeah.
And those
And
few,
dissecting it.
and
Yeah.
dissecting why you didn't do it and trying to capture your vote for later. They're not trying to do that. What they're trying to do is they're trying to capture more registered Democrats, more
Right.
registered Republicans
Yeah.
who didn't show up at the ballot, not these undecided independents.
No, I'm not independent. I was registered as a Democrat. Still am.
I still don't think that they're trying to go out and capture your missed vote.
No, they won't know. I mean,
I think that's
well,
fair.
they will know. Like, as if you apply for didn't vote. We know
like-
that's.
I mean,
To also be fair,
but you
I
just
was
don't
also
know who you voted for. I mean,
Yeah.
because the vote is private, so they won't know who you voted for unless you tell
But
them.
they know how many registered Democrats are and how many
And
registered
how
Democrats
many show
voted.
up, but they also know. Let's say if he applied for some government, whether there's a record of voting.
yeah,
did he
you do
vote
have
or
a
not.
record.
Yeah.
So I will say this though, is that I was also less mature in my political development than I am today. And I
Oh,
will
sure.
say after Donald Trump was elected, I made a commitment to myself that I had to get more. I had to learn more about what is going on in our society.
I remember
because
chastising you about the midterm elections.
I voted.
I know, but I remember chastising you about it because you're like,
No.
I'm not going to go and do it.
No,
Like,
that was
you
the
better do
primaries. That was
this.
the primaries.
Oh, it was the primaries.
That was the
yeah.
primaries. That was March.
Yeah.
No, that was right before.
It was
March?
the primaries.
Yeah, it was the primaries.
Yeah, it was the primaries. You're right. Not the
Yeah, yeah.
midterms.
It still didn't matter, but
Well,
it's important. It's important. The
It
primaries are
matters.
matters.
I mean-
it's just my order of priority didn't matter.
I think a vote in the primaries will get looked at closer than a non-vote in
Yeah.
the primaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Like, oh, we got 60,000 people who voted for Yang out of 97,000 people. You know, like, I don't know. I think that those
That's where
statistics are
ranked
important.
choice matters so much. Which,
Oh,
by the
yeah,
way, I didn't
man.
tell you this, dude.
Mm.
There was a ballot initiative that was signed and approved, but they didn't file signatures to put ranked choice in California. So essentially, no one had the money and no one backed it up. They didn't get the signatures. It's like that's
the
a
one
no-brainer.
thing that I would have pitched in some cash for.
There's no, yeah, exactly. There's no.
They should have asked you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Here's $20.
Yeah. Here's my down payment for my pizza.
Yeah. So I don't know. This year, Mom, I think that I have to vote. That white supremacy thing is just the icing on the cake at this point, because I've experienced white supremacy. I've experienced ignorant supremacy, and I say ignorant because they don't have an ideology. They're just trying to be racist.
Yeah.
I've experienced this racism, and so I now more than ever, if you're Hispanic, if you're a minority, Black, Asian, the fact that you have someone that you might be supporting,
And they are.
who is not willing to defend you should a racist supremacy group target you, you are literally burning yourself. You are burning yourself. And the argument is, well, Joe Biden didn't disavow Antifa. He's on record saying, yes, across the board, I disavow all violence. Doesn't matter who the violence is toward or who's committing it. Violence
Especially
is
if you're
wrong.
saying all of it, violence is violence, you know, and I disavow all kinds of violence. I don't care. I disavow it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But-
So that's one of the arguments people say. Oh, well, Joe Biden didn't, you know, because that's
I
what he,
never-
Oh,
I
but Joe
didn't hear
Biden
that.
voted for war. Oh, but Joe Biden's pro-choice. It's all violent.
He's
Yep.
he's a
The war is
Catholic.
the war and those types of votes is definitely, I think, a sound argument, but it does not exonerate Trump from his comments. And there was this one Democrat from California. Democrat from California at the House who spoke up. She was like one of the only lone votes against going to war in Iraq, and I can't remember her name.
Oh, you were telling me
Yeah,
that.
I sent you the
the
video
link.
of it. I mean, she just said this eloquent thing that was just fortuitous. She goes, "We're getting into a war that we don't see an end in." And
Oh,
what
yeah,
is going to
it's
happen
going on.
when we are thinking that we are the liberators and actually damaging this society? And it's just like this complex that you're going to create. She was just so articulate, and it was really great.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. We don't have the actual strategy to win or a clear definition of what crossing that finish line and getting that win looks like.
There's no goal.
And
there.
then obviously
Vote.
the return.
But then
Go vote.
we destroyed that. I mean,
Go vote.
those countries are destroyed, and now we're just gonna leave them. I mean, Iraq had nothing to do with this stuff, but then we went to Iraq, and Iraq was a stabilizing force there.
But you know who had something to do with Iraq? Joe Biden, because Trump didn't vote for that war. Right?
Well, go and vote.
Yep. Go vote. All right, guys. I think this is good. We covered Proposition 21, 24, and talked about the election. So we're out next time on Social Thorns.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you for inviting me.